Grand Rising family, welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. It is Thursday, May the 29th, 2025, and the time is 11:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So a.m. And welcome to 11 or the portal. As you know, 11 means portal or doorway. It's out with the old, in with the new. Welcome, check in and let us know where you're hailing from because it is a beautiful day. Grand rising, great rising, joyous rising, happy rising, rich rising, wealthy rising family. Greetings. Let us know where you're hailing from. Check in and say hello to the Soul family. We see Magda here in the house who has been waiting for me for about 30 minutes. Thank you. Scat Pat said, "This is a beautiful day. Do not let it slip away." We see Shay's in the house. She was in a Silver Soul Tribe meeting this morning early in the AM as we discuss nations' currencies that are about to revalue due to President Trump securing those trade deals in the Middle East. So if you want to join the Soul Tribe membership group, we'll drop the link in the chat for you because we go into detail about certain investments, which will help us secure wealth for our family and our bloodlines and fund our humanitarian projects and philanthropic projects as well. Welcome. Kath is in the house saying, "This sounds so good." Black Coral says, "A grand rising to the family." Hello, Nora. She says, "Grand rising from Tampa, Florida." We see Faith is in the house and it's beautiful. Sister Shelly is in the house from South Dakota. Rasta Hotep is here, rich rising from Boston. Hello, Sister Theola. She says, "Wealthy rising." Sister Theola is also one of our Soul Tribe members, as well as Rasta Hotep. And they can tell you we have great benefits from being a part of the Silver Soul Tribe membership group because the people that are in that group are only the ones their focus is on helping humanity and building wealth for their families. It's all positive. We share information. We share from where you can get different currencies, or if you're interested in currency revaluations. We've talked about the gold backs. Some people talk about XRP, digital assets and such, and we go into detail about currency revaluations and trade deals. But on the main channel, we still talk about breaking Iraqi news, global financial and economic news here as well. We just go into detail in the Silver Soul Tribe membership group. Doug is hailing from Massachusetts. Hello. Kevin is here, says peace and strength. Atlanta, much love. Much love back to you, Brother Kevin. Amelia says good day from Maryland. We see Live in the Now. Keep checking in, family. We're going to take our time this AM. We hope everyone slept very well. Doug says he loves my hair. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. Sun Goddess says, "Grand, supreme, and rich rising, Dr. Pruitt and Soul Tribe." Oh, I love that. Thank you. Grand rising to you too. Jewel says, "Peace, everybody." Yay. Sister Tanya's in the house from Lawrenceville, Georgia. Grand rising to you too. And this is the Silver Soul Tribe membership group here, the link that you can join if you want to go into detail on which currencies that you may look into to revalue, what's going on with President Trump and his trade deals, how these trade deals are leading to a global currency reset and revaluation of currencies. And we just do a deep dive into nations, what resources they have. What else do we talk about? The geopolitical news in those nations, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're interested in joining that group, then I put the link in the chat for you. Brother Clifton is in the house. Peace and love to you. Makwa is in the house. Beautiful name. Grand Rising. Grand Rising to Norai from Texas. We see Marquise. Is it Marquise? No, Makwa says, "Dr. Pruitt, you do a great job." Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me, family. So we have about 189 people in the chat. Welcome. A grand rising, joyous rising, rich rising. And for those of you who have been sending a blessing, let me give you a shout out, or who have been supporting my work through monetary gifts. I just want to shout you out because you truly bless my soul. You help me do this full time. It enables me to spend the time reading articles, interviewing people such as Princess Elizabeth, who is the trigger that will release the King Solomon Fund, Marcos Wealth, or President Marcos Wealth in the Philippines. She will help to release many of the grants and funds and what a trust that many of you have heard about, St. Germain Trust. So we interview her. We take the time to interview certain people all over the world, chiefs that are helping to secure land and mining contracts with other nations, chiefs in Africa. This enables me to talk to Chief Rod Hayes, who will be on the show on Saturday, to go into a deep dive on what the commutation of Larry Hoover's prison sentence mean for the the whole family. He will be here Saturday. And it gives me an opportunity to dive into global financial and economic news, break it down so that I can be able to understand and overstand it, and then commute that or give that information over to you. So Sister Deborah Hodo, thank you so much for your blessing. Those of you that have sent a cash app to $ Mama Kia 13, I appreciate you. Josephine has sent a blessing. Wow, that was huge. Thank you so much for the $100, Sister Josephine. Tayanda, Sister, thank you so much. You often contribute to my work. Dorian is also someone who contributes to the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. Michelle Capel Long, thank you. Carmel Cooksey, Shay Hooper, wow, thank you so much for sending so much. I appreciate you. Marsha Daniel also sent a Cash App blessing. My son Douglas, Yvette, yes, thank you so much, and I will maintain. Sister Deborah Allen, Brother Theo, Sister Norma, and Sister Sheila Wallace. I appreciate you all so very much. So continue to check in, family. We're happy to see everyone. Okay, Kushi says, I'll be right back. Makwa asks, is that the only means to bless me? No, you know what? Your presence blesses me. So you can send it to Cash App. There's also a PayPal link that I have somewhere here. I'll put that in the description section as well. Or you can join the Silver Soul Tribe membership group, because that is a paid closed group for just for people who want to deep dive. So that is the link to the PayPal. Let me see. There's got to be something better I can do there. That's a huge link, but here is something. Dr. Kia Pruitt or kiapruitt@gmail.com, I think might be the Gmail. Or you can go to PayPal, and it's PayPal me/Kia Pruitt. That is the PayPal link. Thank you for asking that. That means a lot to me. So there's PayPal, and then there's the Cash App. You'll be back? Okay, come on back. Listening on the way to another slave day. Just love living in America. I know. Oh, America. Hello, Sister Barbara from Alabama. C. Jones is in the house from Texas. Peace to you too. Tanya's talking to Kevin. Thuggish bone. Ruggish bone. I know, right? Some people have been asking, why in the world would President Trump commute the prison sentence of Larry Hoover when he was an ex-gang member and a criminal? That's what people are asking. And why is he pardoning people who have done things that we either know of or heard of that weren't necessarily in alignment with good principles or values? Well, in my humble opinion, everything is political, family. Everything. Kushal says eBay. Sinbad says, I wish I never knew anything. I wish I was ignorant. An ignorant sheep at this point. So much better off than waiting for things that never happened, blah, 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 blah. I hear you. The good thing, though, the good news is that things are happening. And if you watch the Dr. Kia Pruitt show with an open mind and have an abundance mentality, you can see that things really are happening. For example, I released a video that says how we know Nasara is happening. Proof. And I showed proof of the IRS being dismantled. I showed proof of all the things that we've been promised actually rolling out. You might be inclined to watch that video because people said that it was very, very helpful and very, very encouraging. So things are happening. But if they don't happen as fast or as quickly as you would like them, then as sovereign beings, we should take it upon ourselves to make it happen. Okay. We don't have to sit on the sidelines of despair. J6, a lot of them were released from jail because they took it upon themselves to go into the Capitol, yank out those people, take those computers, and stake the totem pole. You know why they did that? Because the 10th Amendment for our Constitution for the Republic says that we have the right to take control of our own country. The 10th Amendment says that local communities have more power than the federal government, and that the federal government, in fact, only has the power that the people give it. So people that are in the know and are not just used to sitting back and waiting for them or those people or they to complete the work, meaning President Trump, the White Hats, Grand Army of the Republic, White Nasara White Knights, people who know that they are sovereign, they have rule, reign, and control of their lives, or just everyday people who are tired, like you guys are, like I am, of what's going on. Understand and overstand that not only does the 10th Amendment afford you the opportunity to work at the state level, okay, because the state and local communities have more power than the federal government, but they also know that the Constitution says you have a right to form a militia and go against the powers that have taken control. Anytime you see somebody usurping authority from your government or taking away your freedom, your liberties, or your rights, you have the right to form a militia. That's the Constitution. You also have a right to protest. And the lawful meaning of protest is not marching, rolling over on the floor, singing "We Shall Overcome," groveling and begging somebody, or casting negative affirmations on you, saying "Hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe, no justice, no peace." But in fact, a protest, a lawful protest, according to Black's Law Dictionary, is signing or creating a notarized statement and then passing that statement, as if it's signed by certain people, that statement that discusses or shares whatever problems you have against anyone or the government, and then you take it through a proper procedures and until you reach a conclusion and a solution. That is a protest. Martin Luther King, or Michael Luther King, the friend of the Rothschilds, who took many pictures with them and who said, "I feared I've led my people into a burning house." That guy, he knows what a lawful protest is, but that guy and many other Black leaders led us astray, in my humble opinion, by telling us to march and to cry and to drag our children in the streets and to have them get shot at and waterboarded for justice and peace, when literally a protest is a notarized document stating your grievance with the government or anyone else and sending it through a channel of procedures. So we don't have to sit and wait for anything. You can do that, what the J6ers did, and then look what they state: a totem pole. That was the autogenous indigenous people dressed, and you see the guy that did it in tribal garb, staking his claim. How could he do that? He could do that because he knows the Capitol is the people's house. That's your house. That's my house. We have a right to storm that place and take those people out of there, drag them out of there, because they usurped authority and they committed treason. If you don't want to do a lawful protest, or you don't want to yank anybody up out of office or form a militia, you can always do what 3 Kentucky citizens or taxpayers did when Governor Andy Beshear refused to go by Kentucky state lawmakers in removing state sales taxes from precious metals. Kentucky was the 45th state to reclaim silver and gold. We have 45 states that have reclaimed silver and gold. What did they do? How did they do that? They reclaimed silver and gold by repealing, or the legislatures by repealing or removing the state sales tax from the sales of precious metals. That, my darlings, means that precious metals can no longer be deemed as a commodity, but it has to be deemed as money. That aligns with the Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, that says the only thing that can be used as money is silver and gold. The only thing that can be used to pay off debts is silver and gold. It also aligns with the Congress Coinage Act of 1792, April 2nd, 1792, which says that the dollar is affixed to a troy ounce of silver, excuse me. So that's why we celebrated Liberty Day or Freedom Day on April the 2nd. President Trump was saying that that was the day, the deadline he gave all these countries to come to do deals with him on April 2nd. But it also commemorated April the 2nd, 1792, which is the Congress Coinage Act. So these states repealed the state taxes from the sales of precious metals, and Kentucky was the 45th state. That happened about a year or two ago. Governor Andy Beshear did not acknowledge that, and so 3 Kentucky citizens and a major precious metals company sued Governor Andy Beshear for illegal sales tax seizures. I'll leave that in the description section for you, and I'll leave it in the chat. My point here is we don't have to wait for anything. We don't have to sit on the sidelines of despair. We don't have to wish that something would happen. We don't even have to wish that. I understand what you're saying. Understand. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. But now that we have an awakening and we know that we're sovereign, we have reign, rule, and control over our lives, okay? Which is why sovereignty won at the Kentucky Derby. That horse won at the Kentucky Derby just in March. COMMS being dropped, communications. Kentucky is on the move. They had been a transportation hub of the world. There was a lot of deep underground military bases there, a deep underground military activity. There are deep underground tunnels that come from the Brown Museum all the way up to the Churchill Downs where the Kentucky Derby occurs. There are mounds and just a lot of nefarious activity goes on there, which is why I think billionaires and millionaires come to spend millions of dollars in Louisville, Kentucky, where I raise my children, because the Kentucky Derby is only a 3-hour horse race. My point is, we don't have to be tired. We are sovereign. Sov means over. Reign means rule and control over your life. We don't have to wait for anything. We can take it upon ourselves to form a militia. We can do a lawful protest like the 3 Kentucky people did, because they had notarized documents and statements, and then they sued the governor Andy Beshear. We can awaken the people, and we can come to podcasts like this or study on our own with an abundance mentality. Because when you are positive and you have an abundance mindset, meaning you know there's a surplus of wealth, there's a surplus of liberty, freedom, and joy, everything that we need, your mind would expand and you will start to look for it. Thank you for saying that, because a lot of us are tired, Sinbad. I get tired. So I understand. Kushai, what is the Dead Poets Society? Can you say that? I love you too, Sinbad. Access Hollywood tape. Y'all dropping all kind of codes. Tell me what it means. Kushai Vaya says Robert De Niro said that Trump is a gangster. Speak of the government. Okay, so IRS has been closed and fenced off for a long time, Awaken One says. Miss Pruitt, there's no RV. There are no tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's a lie. Please stop this nonsense. First of all, I've never said anything about tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, so please get your facts straight. Secondly, currencies are already revaluating. As a matter of fact, Iraq's Al-Sudani said that he would revalue his currencies against the IQD against the dollar. Thirdly, please know that this has happened many, many times. We are experiencing a global currency reset. And if this podcast isn't for you, then you can leave. Peace. I know we're all tired. I know. No, you're not a downer. We're human. We get tired. Rod Hayes is live. And I contacted him. He'll be on the show Saturday. I did catch him live on Young Elder Show last night. Let me see where he is. I don't see him live. Are you saying he's live now, or he said that in his live last night? So he'll be on the Dr. Kia Pruitt show, because if he were live, I think I would see him, unless I'm on my wrong page. Thank you for that information. So let's get into the news about these commutations and pardons that have occurred. I don't see him live. Maybe you're saying that he was live. Okay. So to begin with, Sister Amelia says they lied on Larry Hoover. I wondered about that. I wondered if he was some type of prisoner of war, because I never followed his story. I only know from Chief Pontiac, also known as Rod Hayes, that he was in prison for many years, and Chief Rod Hayes has been saying free Larry Hoover for a while. It's like he put that in the universe and it happened. And people start sending that hashtag. Thank you, Sister Deborah, for the Cash App blessing. And thank you, Robin Morgan. I appreciate you so much. Okay, we will go over some of your comments and questions in a minute. But let's talk about how President Trump had a very, very busy day on yesterday, which was the 28th of May. 8 plus 2 is 10. I wonder what is the astrological significance of yesterday. It was a Wednesday. President Trump issued 17 pardons. What do we know about 17? 17, 1 plus 7 is 8. 8 is the number of abundance. 8 is the number of prosperity. 8 is the infinity. If you turn it on its side, it is the infinity number. What else? When Trump was on the campaign trail, he would say text 8808. It's almost as if they were dropping cues all along. Q's. 17 is the 17th letter is Q. During a lot of these election talks and speeches and comms and media publications, you see Q, C-U-E-S being dropped. 17 is this. The 17th letter is Q. The Q clearance, which is one of the highest clearances in the government and military, is very significant because people with Q clearances were dropping Qs in 2017 and 2018 on many different discussion boards about the cleanup of the deep state. What is the deep state? Deep as in water. Deep as in admiralty law and maritime law. The deep state, the cabal, you may call it the Illuminati, the Khazarian Mafia, Zionists, or any of those beings that have controlled the planet, the evil draconians, I don't know, some people call them reptilians, those entities that are either human hybrids or not human at all, or human puppets that have controlled the world, have been doing nefarious things like harvesting organs, declaring war against nations that would not use the United States dollar, because the United States dollar was the world reserve currency of the Federal Reserve Central Banking System, which is the banking system of the United States Incorporated, who was controlled by the Pope, which is also a draconian. And the Pope, who recently died, issued a letter called Motu Proprio, telling everybody in 2014 that it was over for them and that they all must cease and desist. Well, here we are in 2025, and we see a lot of things happening. If you follow my show and many others that present the real news, and we're the independent journalists, you'll see that we actually provide proof. So yesterday, Trump issued 17 pardons, including GOP or Republican leader or representative Michael Grimm, as in it's grim for somebody, it's bad, it's dismal. I'm looking at the meaning of these words and names. So Michael Grimm was pardoned, and NBA Youngboy. I never heard of this dude, but he was pardoned, and then there was a commutation of the prison sentence of Larry Hoover. My question is, what are the implications? All I know is I see a lot of comms being dropped, and we'll go over them quickly while you're here. So keep chiming in. Thank you for being here on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. Check in, let us know where you're hailing from. Keep the discussion going, and when we get done, we'll answer as many questions as we can. Also, keep in mind that on Saturday, 2 days from now, we will have Chief Pontiac, also known as Chief Rod Hayes, on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show to go into why Larry Hoover his prison sentence was commuted, who this gentleman is, what it means for the Soul Tribe, people all over the globe and how this relates to sovereignty, prosperity, and freedom for everybody all over the world. But I'm going to do my best to lay the foundation according to what I know today. We don't have the time for Saturday's podcast yet, but when Chief Pontiac gets back to me, I'll let you know. So first, let's look at what is the difference between a pardon and a commutation or commuting a prison sentence. Thank you for 512 people being in the chat. I got this from something called NOLO. It's a legal encyclopedia. A commutation of sentence. They ask, how about a little punishment reduction? A commutation is a form of clemency that reduces somebody's punishment for a crime that they committed or allegedly committed. In America, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But, there are times and often when you are actually considered guilty and you don't even get the opportunity to prove yourself innocent. But President Trump has stated vehemently that he's going against the American Bar Association. Why? Because the bar is the British accredited registry. Attorneys and judges must pass the bar, the British accredited registry, if they want to practice law. They're not even representing law. They're not even experts of the Constitution or constitutional law, Constitution for our republic. They're practicing. When people practice, they make mistakes. Okay. Well, anyway, President Trump is going against the American Bar Association. Of course, they're fighting against him. But in the meantime, judges are being arrested, just so you can be assured that the legal system will go away, along with the government agencies that were overturned through the Chevron doctrine, because the Supreme Court overturned the Chevron doctrine. Commutation is a form of clemency that reduces somebody's punishment for prison time. A commuted sentence replaces the original court-ordered sentence. So you may have a court-ordered sentence, but a commutation will replace that. It reduces your punishment. So Larry Hoover, his prison sentence was commuted or reduced. It wasn't that he was pardoned. His sentence, again, was shrunken. There's a controversial example that they give, and that is ex-President Bush's 2007 decision to commute shooter Libby's 30-month prison sentence. Like the pardoning power, though, the power to commute a sentence is at or in the executive's discretion. So the president has the power to decide who gets pardoned and whose sentences becomes commuted. Neither the legislative nor the judicial branch can interfere with what the president from the executive branch decides. They can't override his power. So a commutation of sentences is considered part of the pardoning power, but there are some significant differences according to this article. And here they tell you that there's a difference between forgiveness and reduction. So your pardon completely forgives the defendants of a crime. It's like it didn't happen. They pardon it, they forgive it, while a commutation only reduces the sentence. Acceptance, though, is when the statement that says that the prisoner have to accept the pardon. Some states allow commuted sentences without the prisoner's consent. That is something that I didn't know before reading this article. So you have to accept it. It's not even something that that's binding unless you consent. That's just like a mandate. A mandate is not law. A mandate only becomes binding when you consent to the mandate. So during the shutdown of the whole world, when we had the pandemic, they kept saying we were forced to take the jab. Well, on some hand, people felt very, very forced. But a mandate, I just want to clarify, is not a law. It only again became binding because many of us gave our agreement. Now, some of us gave our agreement because we needed to work. I didn't take it, but I didn't feel that type of pressure. Some people did it because they wanted to be around their family, et cetera, et cetera. And then of course, they pushed the narrative that this is something you must do, because not only was the government saying that, but you had pastors who are now being arrested. A lot of them are being arrested right now, pushing that narrative, saying you had to do it and using their influence to encourage people to do it. But it didn't become binding until you accepted it. And that's my point here. Prisoners must accept when they are given a pardon. Why somebody wouldn't, I don't know. But hey, maybe you probably have to publicly or verbally accept it. Civil rights, here, that's one of the bullet points. It says, unlike pardons, commutations do not restore the civil right that was lost with the criminal conviction. I always say civil rights, that's interesting, but I'd rather have human rights. And then here's the basis. Prisoners usually earn commutation through good behavior. So seeing that Larry Hoover was granted a commutation or a reduction in his prison sentence on yesterday means he must have exhibited some good behavior in prison. But pardons can be issued for a wide variety of reasons, some of which may be purely political. And that's why I say everything here that we see, in my very strong opinion, I'm not even gonna say humble opinion, is political. We see that President Trump has done this right after he came from his trip from the Middle East, where he secured or brokered trillions of dollars in trade deals. And he's not only done that, he's brokered trade deals with Asian nations. We also see this happening when the Shanghai corporations, Shanghai Operation corporations, those Asian nations, and the BRICS bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and all of the nations that have joined with BRICS. All of this has happened when they drop the dollar and they're using their local currencies for trade. Sinbad, remember you said you're tired of all this, and somebody else said RVs are not true. I'm not calling you out to be dismissive. I'm saying I want to encourage you. By putting tariffs on these nations and saying that you are going to make sure everybody is on a level playing field, you are forcing them to revalue their currencies. Because in order to do business with the big guys, with America and China, the two largest economies in the world, you have to have money. That means you must revalue your currencies or put your currencies back up or reinstate them back to their pre-war and pre-sanctioned values. So you see many nations doing trade deals with President Donald Trump and with each other. You see countries coalescing against the United States Incorporated and the Federal Reserve Central Banking System by aligning with either BRICS or the Shanghai Corporation organizations and trading with their own local currencies and reject the United States dollar, which is the world reserve currency of the central banking system and the United States Corporation. This is a systematic destruction and takedown of the deep state maritime law and admiralty law happening simultaneously. It is, my darlings, a new day. Okay. So Trump pardon 17, right? We talked about what 17 means. It's Q, it's the 17th number. It also 1 + 7 = 8. They're dropping Qs. We talked about pardons versus commutations. Now let's look at the article, or one of the articles that was published by the New York Post, and read what they say about these pardons. I'll put this in the description for you all. Thank you so much for sending a cash app. Thank you, Brenda. You're so amazing. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. May the Creator bless you all and heaven smile on you. And may you receive 1,000-fold for everything that you sacrifice, 1,000-fold for everything you give to humanity, 1,000-fold for the energy, the positive energy that you're pulling out into the multiverse, and 1,000-fold for supporting the work of people like me who present information to raise the vibrations of the family. New York Post says, President Trump pardons ex-Staten Island and Brooklyn GOP representative Michael Grimm. I would be interested in seeing what the gematria is for Michael Grimm. If somebody has time, you can go to Gematrix, I think it is, or Gematria Calculator, put his name in and see what statements come up, because they're probably dropping cues about what's going on geopolitically by mentioning his name. And there's a reason that he was locked up. It probably was something political. And it may probably likely occurred under the former administration, and President Trump came along and commuted that sentence for a reason, or pardoned him. And then he commuted the sentence of notorious gang leader Larry Hoover, according to this article that was published last night at 9:27 p.m. on May the 28th. Thank you so much for the Cash App gift, family. You can hear them going off. Oh, they have 469 comments on this post. Okay. So who is this gentleman, Grimm? President Trump pardoned former Staten Island from New York and Brooklyn GOP Representative Michael Grimm and commuted the federal sentences of notorious means like you're well known for something malevolent that you did, Chicago gangster. Now, I always say that Chicago is a very interesting place. I'm hearing that Chicago holds is it the allodial title or the title to, somebody tell me, Chicago holds the title to, is it the Moroccan Empire? Somebody tell me the importance of Chicago. Chicago also has a certain bloodline there, which is why they keep putting drugs and guns and in certain communities. There's a bloodline that they're going after in Chicago. Somebody tell me why Chicago is so significant and why they keep mentioning Chicago. Obama came from Chicago. Interestingly enough, when Obama was on the presidential campaign, I had a friend who called me that lived there and said, we from Chicago have no idea who President Obama is. He said, he's not from here. My father works in politics. My father is a Mason, he told me. I come from the bloodline of Masonic people. We know all about the politics in Chicago. He said, we don't know who this ninja is. It's like he came off the scene, to the scene from somewhere, we don't know about. Many people say he has Anunnaki DNA. He actually looks like Pharaoh Akhenaten, or one of the pharaohs. But we don't know where this gentleman came from. But my point is, we were told he came from Chicago. This gentleman, named Larry Hoover, is part of who came from Chicago. He's a gangster from that area. Somebody drop in the chat the significance of Chicago, why Chicago is so important to the deep state, and what is the implication of or the connection between Chicago and Egypt, because we know America is Egypt. We know that Tennessee is Tennessee, Kentucky area. That area is Egypt. So there's some connection, but my memory is not serving me well right now. I want to have to ask my friend who lives in Tennessee what he told me about Chicago. There are some very important critical records that are held in Chicago, family. Grimm, look up his last name, a former FBI agent and business owner, so he's an entrepreneur, he's got money, served 7 months, 7, which is the number of completion, in prison in 2015 and 16 after pleading guilty to underreporting taxable revenue from his Manhattan restaurant. He underreported tax revenue, and so they put him in prison for that? He served 7 months? When we know that people that live in the private often don't pay their taxes, and we know that tax paying is voluntary, so why was he put in prison for that? Very interesting. And we do know that, as an aside, Trump is demolishing the IRS, and that under his first administration, he put the IRS underneath the umbrella of the United States Treasury Department. So Grimm, who was 55, what do 2 5s aligned together represent? Served 2 terms in Congress, and he was elected to a 3rd one before resigning in January 2015 following his guilty plea. He unsuccessfully sought his former House seat in 2018, losing in the Republican primary, and worked as a Newsmax commentator, being paralyzed from the chest down in September after falling off a horse during a polo tournament. Oh my God, did he fall off accidentally, or did they push him off? You never know with these people. Grimm's congressional tenure may be best remembered for an incident that occurred in 2014 when he threatened then New York reporter Michael Scotto after being asked a question about a campaign finance investigation. The congressman initially declined to discuss that occurrence or the topic, and he started to walk away. Then he stormed back into shot. He stormed back into shot to get his last word in to this guy, Scotto. And he said, let me be clear to you. You ever do that to me again, I'll throw you off this effing balcony. You're not man enough. I'll break you in half like a boy. Woo-wee. Sound like real man stuff. Look, you interfere in men's business or you offend a man, you're going to get these hands of a man. And he just threatened him. I'm going to throw you off of this like an effing boy. But it looked like they may have gotten him back because you see he fell from somewhere. The former lawmaker's pardon was first reported by New York One or N1. He said to President Trump's pardon, I am grateful beyond words to President Trump for restoring my good name and giving me my life back. Grimm told the Post in a statement yesterday or Wednesday night. And then it goes in to talk about how 10 years ago, after serving its country in the Marines, the FBI, and in Congress, the Obama Justice Administration was weaponized against him. That's what this Grimm gentleman said. He said, I believe President Trump, having battled his own baseless lawfare campaign, saw this for what it really is, and he liberated me. He said now he can focus on recovering and doing some other works. This article is trying to mess up. So among the 17, President Trump also pardoned former Army Lieutenant Mark Bashaw, who was convicted by a court-martial of disobeying orders by refusing to telework during this CV-19. This gentleman, Lieutenant Mark, refused to work from telework during the global pandemic. And because of that, they locked him up. And rapper NBA Youngboy, who has a rap sheet including gun crimes. I'm not familiar with NBA Youngboy. That gentleman was pardoned. But I wonder who these people really are. I wonder what the gematria is for their names. And if some of them, like the GOP Representative Grimm, were actually political prisoners. In total, Trump issued 17 pardons on Wednesday night and 9 commutations, including many to little known recipients. Well, one of the most infamous people that or persons that most of you know here is somebody by the name of Larry Hoover. Here it says Trump has designated Alice Johnson, whom he released from prison in his first term, as his pardon czar to recommend any less high-profile cases to him. Hoover, likely the most controversial of the cohort or of the group, co-founded a Chicago gang called the Gangster Disciples. When Rod Hayes or Chief Pontiac, also known as Chief Pontiac, comes onto our show on Saturday, we're going to ask him about the Gangster Disciples. Who are they? What did they do? Who was this leader, Larry Hoover, of the Gangster Disciples? Why did he form them? Why was he put in prison? Because a lot of these gentlemen who run drugs and are over gangs are actually, I don't know about Larry Hoover, but they're actually implanted by the government. So I don't know what's going on here. We're going to dive into this with Chief Pontiac on Saturday. Hoover, who is now 74, received 6 federal life sentences in 1998 for continuing to run the gang from prison, with prosecutors alleging his illicit business empire raked in $100 million annually. How do you rake in $100 million annually? First of all, is that true? And you know, I've seen that number 100 million. It's a number that a lot of people use when they're suing the government over their trust. They typically sue for $100 million. There's something about that 100 million number. And who in America can rake in $100 million unless you have the complicit participation of the government? How can you rake in $100 million unless the government is working with you? So this is alleged that he's brought in an illicit $100 million in his business empire that he was running from prison. Okay. He was selling heroin, allegedly cocaine, crack, and other drugs. And I have to say allegedly because I don't know the facts. You were able to do what you did in jail for 25 years. You're amazing, Chicago federal judge Harry Lineweber told Hoover during his sentences. So why did he call him amazing? Because running an empire, an illicit empire, selling drugs and raking in $100 million would not be perceived as amazing. Perhaps this particular judge that's in Chicago was talking about something else that was going on from prison, because you wouldn't tell somebody you're doing an amazing job building an empire of dealing with drugs, in my humble opinion. Why did President Trump commute him? Somebody drop in the chat why you think President Trump commuted him. Here it says Hoover, likely the most controversial of the cohort, co-founded the Chicago gang Gangsta Disciples and earned a life sentence from the state of Illinois in 1973 for ordering the murder of William Pookie Young, who's 19, after Young stole drugs and money from the gang. Wow, they really went after him, because I know there's drugs running all through and rampant through a lot of different cities and states, particularly in Louisville, Kentucky, where I come from. And a lot of them, those drug czars and drug enterprises have the names of music production, like the one in Louisville is called, what is that guy? What is his name? What is his name? Who is the guy that said Louisville, Kentucky is his second home? Master P. What is the name of his music empire? Whatever it is, it's the same name as that drug empire, that of which Breonna Taylor was allegedly connected to her, she and her boyfriend. It's just kind of fishy to me that a lot of these empires are running rampant through our cities, and they're putting drugs in the communities. And, we have to take some ownership for selling the drugs and for the people that are taking the drugs. But how are these people getting away with it and building empires? In my opinion, the police have a part in it. The government have a part in it. The Boule has a part in it. Other secret societies, entertainers, they all have a part in it. And this is how some of these entertainers are making money. Okay. They don't make money selling records and singing. They make money through these drug enterprises and gangs that they lead. Okay. And that is the way that the deep state allows them to gain prominence. That's one of the main ways they're able to line their pockets. I learned this through research and dealing with people in the music community. Make them say, na, 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 na. Yes. No Limit is the name of the large drug enterprise in Louisville, Kentucky, that Breonna Taylor, the young lady that was unalived right during the pandemic. I think her death set off the pandemic. She was unalived in Louisville, Kentucky, allegedly by police officers. I was saying alleged because I don't know. I lived there. That may have been a ritual. It appeared to have been a ritual. Breonna Taylor was unalived on March the 13th. That was the day that set off the global pandemic, and that's when they shut down the whole world. March the 13th, March the 13th, my son came and told me before they made that public announcement, Mom, March 13th is a political date throughout history, he said. March is a war month. M, turned upside down, is W. March, M-A-R-C-H, March, wars, W-A-R, we turned M upside. And 13, which is really a benevolent number that the ancients used to say would bring in peace, power, and prosperity, but it's a number that the deep state bastardized and told us that it was ominous and that we should fear it. March 13th, Breonna Taylor's unalive. March 13th, they shut down the world. They have the global pandemic. You read the documents, because I read the court cases. I read the dockets on the book. I read everything in detail. And I saw that allegedly her boyfriend had some nefarious dealings with No Limit, the major drug enterprise. And the reason why the police even had surveillance at her house, see, I wasn't just running my mouth, I actually read the documents, was because she had a dead body that was found in her car the year prior. So her whole apartment was being surveyed. Why was a dead body found in her car? She alleged in the reports that I read that her boyfriend had driven the car when the dead body was found. So the boyfriend got the rap, but they still put eyes on her. And when you read all the documents, because I read it, I hope I still have it. I erased a lot from my book, but I sent it to some people. Her boyfriend back then had some dealings with No Limit. The boyfriend who got shot at when she was unalive had some attachment to No Limit, and that big drug enterprise was run by a bunch of mothers, a bunch of single mothers. That's a problem in our community. A bunch of single mothers that couldn't control their kids and their children and the girlfriends of these young wayward gentlemen. But the name of it is No Limit. So who was heading that enterprise? And why did Master P fund many of the lawyers in Louisville, Kentucky? Oh, it was all over the news. And it was even media publications. You would see different lawyers come on before the pandemic. You would see different lawyers say, yes, we're funded by and sponsored by Master P of No Limit. And Master P said Louisville, Kentucky was his second home. It just seems a little weird and odd to me. Also, when you read the information about and the records, the police records about that whole case, Breonna Taylor's murder, and how it was, I say it was connected to the shutdown of the world because it happened around the same time. You read how these young people were actually talking to each other. They had the telephone records. They were talking on the telephone to each other as if they didn't know that the telephones were tapped. And you actually read these young people talking to each other saying, Breonna got murked, but one death don't stop no show. And you saw the conversations between the boyfriends and the girlfriends asking, where's the money? Where's the drugs? Drop it off at this house. And then years after the pandemic and after the murder of Breonna Taylor, you start seeing people that were a part of that drug empire that was listed in that report come up dead, come up unalived and missing. My point is everything's connected. Those people, Breonna Taylor, who they painted a picture of, she was such a, a sweet girl. She may have been, she worked for the EMT and she just wanted to make a living. Nobody from Louisville knew her. People that lived in Louisville knew her, but she wasn't from there. So we didn't know where this girl came from. I only met one person that alleged that they knew her, but Black Lives Matters was marching there until freedom. Antifa, they were all marching on behalf of this young lady, Breonna Taylor, who was about 26, who allegedly worked for the EMT, who was unalived by the police. But that set off the pandemic, which to me looked like a ritual. Then you saw entertainers coming to march. You saw prominent attorneys in the area that would not fund, but represent the people that got locked up, including representing the entertainers. You saw attorneys telling people that they should march, getting on their podcast and literally telling people they should march for the death of Breonna Taylor because she represents us all. And I'm like, look, I sent prayers to the family. I'm so sorry to hear that this happened. I will send prayers. Okay, blessings, prayers, and positive energy. But I'm not about to put my life on the line. And this is what people were doing. They were marching in the streets. I have video footage of it, and I've shown you all that. They were marching in the streets, throwing cans at the National Guards, throwing cans at the police officers, shouting at police officers, spitting at them, throwing all these homemade bombs at them. They were tearing up communities. They tore up one of the political leaders in Louisville, Kentucky, who happened to be a Republican because he's a Republican and because he said we need to get all the evidence before we make a statement. They called him said he was whitewashed, called him an Uncle Tom, and said that's the reason why you're married to a white woman and you have ties to the Republican Party. They tore up his lawn. They tore up downtown. Today, less than 40% of downtown Louisville, Kentucky is open because they tore up the whole town. The attorneys were in on it. the when I say in on it, they're the ones that told people, oh yeah, you can protest, and then they represented them. Represented, okay, well, whatever, that's your job. But I saw them tell them to do this. Pastors told them to protest. They led the protests. They staged these fights like as if they were fighting the police, but you could tell it was staged, falling out on the ground. And then when you dig into these pastors' past who participated, you could see that they were a part of the Divine Nine, Greek fraternities, secret societies, and Boule organizations. These attorneys also encouraged people when they took to their podcasts or they talked, on the street to different people to take the jab. So did the pastors, and they even got paid to have COVID centers on their property. The pastors did, and they told everybody to stay in the house. Well, you see, one of the people that was pardoned that we read in the article did not do his job from home. He got locked up because he refused to consent. Well, these pastors told people to consent because these, what do you call them? 501c3s really is not separated from the state. There's no separation from church and state. They have to do whatever Massa tells them to do. Massa say you stay home. Pastor, who's the leader and the handler for Massa, will tell you to stay home, which I get it. I stay home too, and I wasn't even going to church. What I'm saying is a lot of these pastors that receive funds through a 50C, what is it, 501, 50, whatever it is, nonprofit organization, religious organization, they receive money and funds to tell you what to do and to entice you to take these jabs that cause a lot of people to get sick. I apologize for the tangent. Michael says, where there is no business, there's always the drug business. That's sad and it's a shame. But if you don't have any business, you don't have any money, there are no businesses there. People create businesses. And unfortunately, a lot of people create businesses that are part of the underground economy. Sister Tanya says, I read somewhere that Hoover has state crimes and can only be pardoned from the federal crimes. Wow, thank you. Yes, no limit. So we're going to get back. I'm going to tie this to the water, okay? But an admiralty law. Trump pardoned ex-Staten Representative Michael Grimm and 16 other people for a total of 17. And he commuted the sentence of Larry Hoover. I told you all that I learned from one of the Moors, to whom I'm very close, that H means reversal. They speak in codes. 1 minute, please. Hello? Let me plug up my computer. Okay, I'm going to have to leave in 20 minutes, family, which is good for you. That means I'm not going to ramble. H, according to my friend, I've been telling you all this, means reversal. And this gentleman is well connected. I'll just leave it like that. So Hoover, H, a reversal of what? What politically are they reversing? His name is Hoover, as in the Hoover Dam, which has been reported in the news a lot lately. And let me see if I could find, here are a lot of updates. So I just look at Hoover Dam updates because his name is Hoover after all. You see a lot of things about tours and tickets, the water levels. And so one of my friends with whom I study and talk told me that the Hoover Dam will be breached or could be breached in 2 days. Let me make sure you guys can hear me. And I'm getting texts. I want to make sure people aren't trying to, sometimes people, when they see me live, they'll tell me to share things with you all. Yes, H as in Hoover is the reversal of something. What is it the reversal of? So I said the Hoover Dam has been in the news. They said it's reaching critical levels. Remember, we talked about Q. He, Q is the 17th number. Q as in Q, CUES, also, which are comms being dropped or clues. The 17th letter is Q. Q, the country of Qatar with the QQATAR, gifted President Trump a plane or a jet, and that was in the news. Everything's related. All these Qs are being dropped in order to alert those of us in the know or help us to understand things and connect the dots. But really, on a larger scale, they're communicating with each other, the so-called elite. The people at the top are sending messages to each other, okay? But Q has said, as many of you know, to watch the water. Why do you have to watch the water? Well, you don't have to, but the water represents admiralty law and maritime law, which is the law that we were going by in America, or the United States had implemented when they usurped authority from our republic. They took us off the law of the land and constitutional law and put us on admiralty law. So, you think of things like banks, that's water. Court dockets, the dock, bank, docking a ship. You hear a lot of words that talk about that include ship. Conservatorship, that was in the news a lot. What else? Partnership, all these ship words that they use. The Alabama brawl was a brawl or a fight, and this is something that the mainstream media seeded in our consciousness. They didn't call it a fight, they call it a brawl, the Alabama brawl. And now we've been saying that. That occurred, a year or two ago, about 2 years ago. That was all about the removal of admiralty law, maritime law as well, according to my son Douglas Lattimore and me. And we did a whole podcast on that called the Alabama brawl was fake. You saw there a man by the name of Shipman who had his ship docked by the water, who would not move his ship. So the captain of the ship, or the co-captain, got up, threw his hat. That was a smoke signal. Now it's on now. It was cues, cut, camera cut. Now let's do something. Threw up his hat. And then, according to the reports, you saw people classified as Black in another ship mooring across the water to get to the ship to help the captain, because some Caucasian people came to fight the captain who threw up the cat. It was all cues. It all happened in Alabama. Montgomery, Alabama is where one of his famous speeches of Michael Luther, whatever the man's name is, King. Either he lived there, he gave speeches from there. He had a lot of civil rights stuff going on there. It happened in Montgomery, Alabama, so that's significant. So the reports say the people jumped in the water and they moored the shore. Mooring, as in the Moors, who are part of the Moroccan Empire that was here in Amorica or America. They happen to be Black folks, or people classified as Black because the original people that were found here by Christopher Columbus, according to the 1828 Webster's definition of American, 1828 Webster's definition of American. Copper-colored people the copper-colored races discovered in America by Christopher Columbus, but now applied to Europeans. Okay, so that's why they staged it and let these Black folk jump in the water and moor to the shore to help the Black, or captain classified as Black, who was fighting against a Caucasian guy by the name of Shipman, because his ship was docked there and they wouldn't move the ship. So these people wouldn't move the ship to allow these others to come and dock their ship. All about admiralty law and maritime law. So a fight ensued, and you can tell, if you can see, that this was WWE, WWF, whatever they call it, fake fighting. Oh, the wrestling moves. Oh man, it was very theatrical, very entertaining. And people were like, oh, this is between Black and white folk, and we're getting white folk back. And I was like, you guys are celebrating this buffoonery? You can't even see the cues. Speaking of cues, the so-called Black people that moored to shore were the cues. Look at it. A Greek fraternity, the cues, the Q dogs, purple and gold is their colors. It was all staged, a secret society. Now, many of the people that were in that ship didn't have any idea what was going on, but many of them did, the ones that participated in this stage production. One of my friends, who used to be a friend till I started reporting on this, got angry with me when I said that the Qs, some of them jumped in the water. He said, "How dare you say that my secret society, my society has something to do with it? Black Greek fraternities are benevolent and we only do mentorship, yada, yada." And that's true that a lot of them do. But the higher ups know what's going on. And if you want to work in banking, if you want to be work in shipping, if you want to work and be a pilot, if you desire to work high up in the school system, in health, in anything, politics, you have to be a part of a secret society. It starts out in college by joining either a white fraternity, Greek fraternity, or a black, so-called black Greek, so-called white, so-called black Greek fraternity. And if you want to move up, you have to join Skull and Bones or the Masons, or, and if you classify it as black, the Boule. Many of them are benevolent. The secret society, they don't know anything, but they have secrets. Okay. They do certain things to get to cross the sands, fraternity and sorority members. Oh, yes, they do. They do a lot of different things to each other. Like the women run through the men in their brother fraternity, have sex with a bunch of men, force people to drink water, force them to swim across the lake, and they can't. And a lot of people have died because of this. They got these rituals from the military. I've done research on it because that was going to be my dissertation for my PhD. But when I read it and I sat with a gentleman who wrote the book, Dr. Ricky Jones wrote a book about a lot of hazing that occurs in Black Greek fraternities. And he actually worked at the University of Louisville, very good gentleman. But I read his book called Black Haze. And when I saw the hazing that goes on in these fraternities and communities, I was like, yeah, I don't want to read, because I was going to report on how maybe joining Greek fraternities would be one way for the Black community to get it together, right? Because I'm thinking, oh, it must be benevolent. But when I saw what they did, I was like, oh, no. But I like Ricky Hayes, Dr. Ricky Hayes' work so much that I had him on my committee for my PhD, which I shifted from Black Greek fraternities to how to help men classified as Black graduate from college so that they could support their families. It was a very good dissertation. I graduated from my program with honors. I did my dissertation, passed on my dissertation. Some parts of dissertation I passed with honors. So I'm very grateful for Dr. Ricky Jones, Dr. Amy Herschel, Dr. Sam, can't remember Dr. Sam's last name, and all those that were, Dr. Kathy, and all those that were on my committee that helped me. And Dr. Michael Sujet, who also helped me to finish my PhD. But my point is, the Alabama Brawl occurred in Montgomery, Alabama. It was about admiralty and maritime law. That's why you saw banking terms. Shipman was the name of the guy who owned the ship. You think that was just a mere coincidence? It happened in Montgomery, Alabama. You saw Black Greeks to swim in the water. Many of them didn't know. They happened to be there celebrating. It was a celebration. They didn't even know this was about to jump off, but the ones higher up knew. Okay, because that young man that swam to help the Black ship person, the Black ship, what you call him, captain, fight against the Caucasian guy, that was a professional swimmer. They were trying to make it seem like, oh, look at him, he's swimming, he's helping. Oh my gosh. When you're pumped with adrenaline and at this Alabama Brawl, you can swim like a champion. No, that dude was a champion. There's no way this guy just happened to know how to swim across a deep water like that. But what was happening at that particular place at the same time that the brawl was going on? Right across the street, the night prior, President Trump was speaking at a conference. He was speaking at a Republican GOP conference. So he just happened to be there. President Trump happened to be there that Friday night, and Saturday, you happen to have an Alabama brawl that had nothing to do with it. They didn't report that, but I did. And I did a deep dive on how it was all about admiralty law, maritime law, the Moors reclaiming the land, restoring us back to constitutional law, but how they staged this buffoonery that caused people to talk, laugh, and joke like this was something to be proud about. I didn't think it was something to be proud about. I thought it was buffoonery, utter buffoonery. But it was Q's being dropped. So Hoover's sentence has been commuted. Hoover, H means reversal. And the gentleman who taught me this, gentleman from the Moors who studied numerology, numbers, and elite coding, has taught me this. And every time I see an H, I can see what he's saying. He also taught me about the number 41, how you'll see the number 41 and 42 often in a lot of things that the deep state does, because one means white supremacy and one means king. So the bloodline families that controlled the planet instituted white supremacy, which is an ideology that has nothing to do with race, but more to do with power, because they wanted to divide the people that are on this plane. We're going to have a reversal of that. Hoover is very significant in this fight against the deep state, and he's very significant in the reversal. Come on, Holy Ghost, or come, Holy Ghost, come on, ancestors, in the reversal of admiralty law and moving it back towards common law and law of the land. He's very significant in the reversal of a Grimm reality. The guy who was released, the GOP representative, had Grimm in his last name, but somebody please do the gematria right quick on Michael Grimm, what his name means. A reversal of a Grimm reality, but it's going to be grim for the deep state and prosperous and joyous for us. Who is this Hoover guy really? What is his bloodline? What is his connection to the Chicago or the Chi bloodline? I'm getting all kind of notifications on my computer. And what does this all mean for us? That's what we're going to talk to Chief Pontiac, also known as Rod Hayes, about on Saturday. So let me look at the Hoover Dam. What's going on in the Hoover Dam? Oh, I didn't bring that one up yet. And I probably only have a few more minutes because I have to go do something. Somebody also in the chat, please tell me who NBA Youngboy is. I have no idea, but he was pardoned. I said some say that the Hoover Dam will breach soon. They say watch the water. Let's see what's going on. You can learn more about the Hoover Dam levels here. These are the updates as of 2025. Let me know what you think about this, family. I'm going to read your comments. 2025 updates. It talks about how the waterway is really a big deal. Very much of those who live close, plus visitors, want a gander at this impressive spot. For many years, very much this massive reservoir has been a needed spring of both water plus electricity for millions countrywide. You know what? Years ago, I'll put that in the chat, in the description section for you. Years ago, I did a podcast and I talked about how a lake sprung up in California and how it was very impressive. It came from nowhere. It just came from under the ground and it sprang up in the desert. I did a report. I put it on my YouTube channel. They took my YouTube channel down and I cannot find that video. I think that must have been the only place. I must have done it from my phone. I don't know where that phone is, but it sprung from nowhere. I reported that was like in 2017. So family, what I'm saying now, and my Moorish friend reminded me this morning, say, you've been saying that waters and lakes are going to spring from nowhere to nourish the deserts. And I have been saying that. So in California, Texas, that whole region, the West, that's been classified as desert region is a man-made desert. And those fires are man-made. They have told us that those fires come from the sun. And, you know, the sun hitting the brushes and the leaves. And so it sparks and it causes all these fires. But people started doing research and realizing that it's geoengineering and electromagnetic waves that's been shot into the atmosphere from the deep state that's been causing those fires. The deserts in New Mexico, Texas, Utah, California have been man-made, Nevada. And what happened is you had very wealthy people that controlled the waters, like bloodline billionaire families that controlled the water, would not allow waters to be released so that they can create a man-made desert. I know this because I lived in California, and I actually researched this. This is before I really understood and overstood everything that was going on. I researched that there was a family, one major family, but many billionaire families that was controlling the water. And not only were these families controlling the water, but you had the Pelosi's, the Browns, the Newsoms, and there was one more family, Pelosi, Brown, and the Gettys. They're all related by blood and or marriage. They were controlling the water. They were controlling the politics. They were controlling the money, and they allowed many people from the Chinese Communist Party of China to infiltrate the government, to buy up all the land. Many of the politicians, like the basketball player who was a mayor there, was married to a Chinese. And that's not saying all Chinese are bad. I'm saying the CCP infiltrated many segments of our society, and particularly in California, where I lived. And the politics are horrendous there. There was a black mayor there, mayor classified as black, brown guy, basketball player, former basketball player, was married to an Asian. A lot of the political people are married to people from China. Were these people from the Chinese Communist Party? I don't know, but I do know the Pelosi's, the Gettys, the Newsoms, and the Browns are related. Many of them were controlling the politics, and many of them and their billionaire friends were controlling the water. But now you're going to see lakes and water spring up and nourish the deserts. This is why I say if you live in Nevada, good for you, because that area is now going to become very, very nourished, because I'm prophesying that water is going to spring up from nowhere and nourish the water and turn and nourish that area. And we're getting rid of all of the casinos that were owned by the Saudi princes. So Saudi princes bought up a lot of land in Nevada and all over America. CCP, Chinese Communist Party of China, weren't the only ones, but they bought up those casinos. Well, there was a triangle of power. You had the Soros Foundation, the Soros billionaire, you had the Saudi princes, and then you had Israel. Triangle power that was controlling the world. They are being dismantled. Soros has already gone away. Then you had the Saudi princes who conceded to Trump during the first administration. Then during, or right before this administration, they joined the BRICS bloc, which means that Saudi Arabia joined the BRICS bloc, which means the Saudi princes and all the power that they've controlled is over. And their agreement with the United States Incorporated to force all nations to get oil from the Saudi Arabia in exchange for us protecting the Saudi kingdom and the princes, that contract was not renewed as of last summer. So then the Saudi princes, that Saudi dynasty or empire has been eliminated. Soros, princes eliminated, and now you have Israel. And we all know that we're saving Israel for last, but Trump has recently distanced himself from Israel due to Israel's politics and behavior with Gaza. The UK, France, Canada, and other nations are distancing themselves from Israel. Also, Israel made a statement that they felt left out when President Trump was securing trillions of dollars of trade deals in the Middle East. Why did Israel feel left out? Because unlike most presidents who go to the Middle East to bargain or do trade or do any business, most presidents would go through Israel and get their sanction first or get their approval. Trump did not. So Israel said, wait a minute, you circumvented us, worked around us and our nation. Now, we're God's people. I mean, by the way, we have the state of Israel in the Palestine region, which is our home. It's our sacred place. It is the Holy Land, for God's sake. You went around us. But they didn't say we're angry, we're upset, we're going to retaliate. They said we feel left out. Interesting. Trump did not go through them. And they said they felt left out because they helped to establish what was going on in the Middle East. You mean war? You mean conflict that caused us to put sanctions on many nations there? However, President Trump has lifted sanctions in the Middle East. Do your research and you'll find out. While he was in the Middle East, securing and brokering deals, trillions of dollars, he also secured world peace, and he lifted sanctions from many nations. And that insulted and enraged the state of Israel. But when you know, you know. Israel, thank you for the Cash App blessing. Israel is the Rothschild family that were actually, and the Khazarian mafia that were actually given that region in Palestine? Who gave the Rothschilds that area that they're calling a state of Israel in the Palestinian region against the Palestinians, against their people, they didn't ask them for permission and asked them, can we bargain, can we trade? Who did that? Well, it's called the Balfour Declaration. Through the Balfour Declaration, it was the British Crown that gave the Rothschilds that area because they said the Jewish people had a right to have a home that they could call their own. But who was a part of that British Crown other than the Zionist Rothschild faction of the British Crown that gave the Zionist Rothschilds the state of Israel, which is a part of the Palestinian region, through the Balfour Declaration in 1917, and then again in the 1940s during the two world wars. Okay, so that is not a legitimate state. It is unlawful, it is unconstitutional, it is treasonous. And instead of bargaining or asking the Palestinian people of treating them right, because they said that, oh, we're going to treat them right. We're just going to make sure we establish a home there, and we're not going to oppress them. We're not going to go against their religion. They did the opposite. They oppressed them. They had conflict with them, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they are last to fall. The triangle of power: Soros, Saudi princes, and Israel. They're last, but they're about to go. People and nations are distancing themselves from Israel because they're about to be dismantled. My point is, everything is coming together and is being dismantled. The Saudi princes conceded to Trump under his first administration. Remember, we saw the sword dance. Also, now we know in 2022, which I reported that when it happened, they joined BRICS, and BRICS became known as Sal BRICS. That was huge in the takedown of the deep state, because what made the United States the world, what gave them financial and economic hegemony, and what made their dollar the world reserve currency, was our agreement with Saudi Arabia that will protect the Saudi kingdom in exchange for their oil, and will force all nations to get oil from Saudi Arabia using the United States dollar. And any currency, if they chose to use any of their national currencies, they had to be pegged to the United States dollar. But they had to use the USD. That's what made the USD the world reserve currency. The USD is the currency of the Federal Reserve Central Banking System, which is the bank of the United States Incorporated, which is the group of bloodline families that usurped authority from our republic here in America, and our Constitution for the republic, and the law of the land and common law, and therefore created their own Constitution of the United States Incorporated, which is different from the Constitution for our republic, incorporated themselves in 1871 in the state of Delaware, from which Biden came in 1871 with the Pope as the head. Reptilians, draconians, non-human beings, and their human hybrids and their human puppets controlling our dynasty here and the world through the United States Incorporated, which was actually the Neo-Roman Empire, which is why they had the eagle as their symbol, because the Roman Empire chose the eagle as their symbol for its prowess and predatory nature. So the world reserve currency is falling. Babylon has fallen. The Eagles continue to lose many of the Super Bowls. They didn't lose the last one. That was the symbol of the deep state, the Federal Reserve Central Banking System, the cabal, the Illuminati. Going back to the Saudi Empire, they own land in Nevada. You know, a lot of things go down in the Middle East, okay? A lot of things go. They're Muslim nations, and many of the women are kept, and they have to cover their head, and they have to be pious. But the men, a lot of the men do not go along with their religion. Now, their religion allowed them to have 4 wives, but I don't know if their religion allowed them to pee on people and to grape women and to take advantage of the African slaves or the Nigerians and other Africans that will come over there and be slaves to them people, or the sex workers and the Instagram models who think they're going to get off and just make a bunch of money real quick by going over and having sex with them and end up getting peed on, ran through, beat up, mutilated, brutalized. All that stuff that was going down in the Middle East was also going on in Nevada. That's why prostitution is legal there, or was. Drugs was rampant through that area. And it was a desert, which represents the condition of their heart. evil, those people that ran that place. Dry. But the Bible says, break up that fallow ground, that hard rock, that ground that hasn't been worked. You got to break it up. You got to work it over. You got to knead it, till it, put water on it, and then you can fertilize it. Well, you're about to see springs of water come forth in Nevada and in the deserts in Saudi Arabia and all over the world. That's why they're saying watch the water. On the one hand, admiralty law and maritime law will be dismantled. And on another hand, you're going to see the water. The scripture says God moved upon the face of the deep. The God of the Bible moved upon the face of the deep. The water is going to nourish the place. I told you H represents reversal. Hoover had his prison sentence commuted. What are the spiritual implications of that? What are the geopolitical implications of that? Somebody drop it in the chat what you think it means. And we'll talk to Chief Pontiac about it later. So it goes on to talk about Lake Mead, Hoover Dam heights. Why do water heights matter? You need the water for jobs. The water readings of Lake Mead have a bunch of very needed jobs. They offer water for watering plants, for what cities needs and factories requiring, factories and other requirements. Then they go talk more about how the drought was messing things up. Nonstop dryness around the southwestern bits of America have cut back from any new lake inflow so much that the levels don't look hopeful, according to this article. There's a constant fall off with the heights, hydropower output, et cetera, and what are the hurdles? So they're saying that there are hurdles here, that their waters were drying up, but there is other information that says that the dam could be breached very, very soon, within the next 2 months. And that's why there was an article here published not long ago. What would happen if the Hoover Dam breached or the water broke? Is that your son?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to come get you. You ready?
No.
Okay. What would happen if the Hoover Dam broke? Hoover, as in Hoover, was released and commuted from his prison sentence. Okay. Hoover, as in the Hoover Water Dam, as in water or admiralty law. What would happen if it breached? Why are they talking about what would happen if it breached? If it broke? It might be the most impressive U.S. public works project ever. We're talking about the Hoover Dam, the largest man-made reservoir and a feat of American engineers. It holds back 45,000 pounds per square foot of maximum water pressure at the base of the dam. But have you ever wondered what would happen if it broke? I don't know if it's a good thing or not. Maybe trickle some water out and let it nourish the desert, but I don't know if we need it to break. Shaped like a crescent wedge. A crescent wedge reminds me of crescent moon, which they speak often about in Islamic texts, which is the science of the Moors. I mean, my mind is just going all over the place. The top of the dam is 45 feet thick, but its base is 660 feet thick, the same distance as the height of two. There's enough concrete in the Hoover Dam, about 4.5 million cubic yards, to build a 2-lane road from Seattle to Miami. But I wanted to look to see how it talks about it. It goes along the Colorado River. You ever wonder what would happen if the Hoover Dam broke? You're not the only one. It's difficult to imagine. A massive explosion of some type, a natural disaster in epic proportions could happen. And it goes on. It talks about how there is damage to the dam already. If a disaster struck and the Hoover Dam stopped functioning, a catastrophic amount of water from Lake Mead would be released, et cetera, et cetera. And it talks about how the destruction of irrigation water supplies would have a devastating effect on farming in the region. And then there's the electric grid, where the hydropower generation was a major reason for building the Hoover Dam. And in fact, it not only financed the project, but income from hydroelectric power generation also continues to pay for the operation, for maintenance, and replacement of the dam. So I received information today that they're saying that the Hoover Dam could breach in about, was it 2 days? Let me see. Was it 2 days or 2 weeks? Let me see, family. And you could do your research on this too. But it could breach. And that's just news. That doesn't mean that it will breach. That's just what they've been saying. Okay. In 2 days, Hoover Dam is going to breach or could breach in 2 days, is what was sent to me. And here's something that could happen. And it's in one of the articles. Downriver towns and major cities would see the most damage. In the event of the dam's physical collapse, water flows could engulf many towns and growing cities around Mohave County, including Laughlin, Nevada, Needless, California, that's a weird city name, Lake Havasu, Arizona, and even as far south as Yuma, Arizona, and San Luis Rey, Colorado. Interesting that it would, water would flow along Nevada, California, Arizona, where there's gold, and Colorado, where we've reported that there's gold all along the Colorado River. So my question to you is, what are the implications of Hoover having his sentence commuted, him going home, 17 pardons that are occurring, one by the name of Grimm, all of this happening right on the heels of President Trump securing major trade deals with Asian nations and with the Middle East. And at the same time, he's distancing himself from Israel. I'm going to see. In my opinion, all this water talk is about the end of admiralty law and maritime law and a return back to common law of law on the land. It is a reversal. H is a reversal. I've said this on my podcast many times. Hoover, as in the Hoover guy, Larry Hoover, which, by the way, is interesting to me that he got released and his sentence was commuted because Chief Pontiac, also known as Rod Hayes, has been saying for a long time, free Larry Hoover, free Larry. And that was the hashtag. And people started saying it, free Larry Hoover. So that's what got me interested in who is this guy really? I can tell you what they say about Larry Hoover. They said he's an ex-gangbanger. He made $100 million in his enterprise, that he ran a drug enterprise from prison. And then when the judge heard his case, when his sentence was being commuted, said, you did an amazing job. You're amazing. Like, this is not adding up to me. But he's from Chicago. What is it about that Chicago bloodline? You know that the bloodline families that control, let me see if I can get it, that control the Rothschilds. So you got the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and all those. There's a bloodline family that control those bloodline families. Those are people that are colored, that control the bloodline families. One of them is the Chi bloodline, as in Chicago. So what's really going on? See if I can find that. I do have that up so I can show y'all which bloodline families run the world, my darlings. So who's this Larry Hoover guy, first of all? Oh, I need to get out of here. I got so much to do today. But y'all so important to me. Okay, former Chicago gang leader Larry Hoover, who had been serving a life sentence at a super max prison in Colorado. That's a very important place. Colorado, I always say there's gold flowing along the Colorado River. Has had his sentence commuted by Donald Trump. The commutation initially reported by Notice was later confirmed by the White House official to a Newsweek, who did not answer what reason was behind the president's decision. And here's the context. Listen, Trump's reported move comes amid a flurry of pardons for convicted Americans, mostly for those he feels fell victim to a politicized and weaponized justice system. This is going to be the precursor to the destruction and demolition of the Supreme, not the Supreme, but the court system here in America, which will end maritime law. You know, where you go into a court, you see the judge is in all black, he's actually performing a ritual, which is your funeral, all that stuff. They have dockets, all the banking term is relevant here. Trump said that he feels that these people that whose crimes he committed, or the people that he pardoned, fell victim to a politicized and weaponized justice system. We need to dive into that deeper, and we will with Chief Pontiac on Saturday. Hoover was originally imprisoned for a 1973 murder and was later convicted in 1998 for operating a criminal enterprise. In recent years, he renounced his criminal activities and he sought a reduced sentence through a formal petition. A formal petition. I keep telling you, a protest or a petition. A protest is really a docket or a document, there's that word doc again, like dock by the water, that is notarized, a statement stating your grievance with someone, particularly people in the system, and you go through proper channels until your grievance is heard and a solution is made. That's what a protest is. It's not marching through the streets. It's not singing Kumbaya. It's not passing out, rolling over, begging, or none of that we've been taught. Now, if you want to do that because you think it brings some type of attention to the right people, then, I mean, I'm not going to argue because, maybe it does. It can be very dangerous. I saw that during the global shutdown when I saw these people throwing bombs at the guards, the police officers, the National Guards. And then the National Guard had to respond. Somebody actually got shot and killed, a business owner, because the police and the National Guard told everybody to be in. This is during curfews. But you know how some people are. They want to party and cook out and hang out. And ain't nobody going to tell me what to do. And they just having a good time. When they go in the house, they said go in. Everybody go in. Now, there may be a benevolent reason. Maybe they were telling everybody to go in because something political could have been going on. You never know. We don't know all the news. Maybe they were making arrests. That's what I reported anyway. Well, some people refused to go in. The National Guard kept warning them through the bullhorn. I lived in that area about several blocks from the area, but it was still considered a community classified as black. Allegedly, the refurbished places, renewed, revitalized, but still a lot of stuff was going on there. They kept warning the people to go in. The people wouldn't go in. They shot rubber bullets. The owner of the restaurant there where everybody was cooking out and hanging out didn't know what was going on. He's in his house. His niece, I believe it was, runs in. So they were first shooting rubber bullets. Then then somebody started shooting back at the National Guard and police. So now they're shooting bullets at each other. The niece who wouldn't go in and some of his nephews and cousins that wouldn't go in the house, now they run in the house. The owner who's in the house, all he sees is some bullets flying in his house. So he comes out and he just comes out shooting without asking questions, ended up shooting at the cops, and he got shot and killed. Keep yourself out of harm's way. Back to Hoover. Hoover, known as King Larry. Why was he known as King? What is his bloodline? Was it because he was a kingpin of the drug game, or was there something else going on? He was born in Jackson, Mississippi in November 1950. The family moved to Chicago. What's the reason why they're telling us the story about him? Moved to Chicago, Illinois when he was 4 years old, and he joined the gang less than a decade later at around 12 or age 13. There's that number 13 again. After starting with low-level crime, Hoover's actions became more violent, and he took control of the supreme gangsters at the age of 15. I've seen a lot of whippersnappers that are 15. Some of them play sports. They do have a lot of testosterone, but there's nowhere in Hades have I ever seen a 15-year-old take control of a major gang like the Supreme Gangsters, but okay, whatever. Over the years, that group grew and joined forces with others to eventually become the gangsters' disciples in the late 60s. Who funded them? Who was he? Who allowed this to continue on? Who worked with him? And what are the implications? What was the damage done? What did he do in response? How did he end up in jail? How did he further end up making over $100 million while running the gang from jail? It's not making sense to me. It's not all adding up. Somebody's going to have to help me. And that's why we're inviting Chief Pontiac to come on and help us Saturday. 73, Hoover was sentenced between 150 and 200 years in prison for ordering the murder of William Young, a drug dealer. He ordered a murder, an unaliving of another drug dealer. Was he just some random drug dealer, or was he another kingpin? Was he FBI agent? Was he connected to the CIA? Was he funded by them? Who? So because he ordered, people order unalivements every day in the hood. This particular person sentenced 150 to 200 years. I'm not saying he shouldn't pay for a crime. 200 years is a lot. What was really going on? I'm not saying you should release criminals. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying what I'm saying. Something's fishy. Despite being in jail, Hoover continued to influence and lead the gang from within the Statesville Correction Center in Crest, Illinois. Thank you so much for sending the cash up. For those you asking, cash up is $ Mama Kia 13. That's MAMAKIA 13. Donald Trump not only commuted his sentence, he pardoned rapper NBA Youngboy. He said he's considering pardons for Gretchen Whitmer kidnap plotters. I don't know who that is. And then there's a full list of the people that he pardoned during his second term. Back to Hoover in 1997, he was convicted of running a continuing criminal enterprise from state prison, earning him another life term. So he was running an enterprise from prison. They knew he was the kingpin of the enterprise. They knew where the enterprise was. They knew he made $100 million, but they didn't stop the enterprise because a man that's locked up in prison has more power than the police department, and he has more power than the federal government and the FBI and CIA and national security. He has more power than the United States Incorporated. That's a bad mother sucker. Hoover and his family have been calling for his release for several years, maintaining that he is no longer associated with the gangster disciples. Look, my father was a victim, or he participated in his own demise by taking drugs. I do not support drug activity. I don't like drugs. I don't like drug dealers. I despise them, as a matter of fact. I despise the activity because my father took the drugs that led to his death, his early demise. And because he was on drugs for most of my, or all of my life, our relationship was not what it could have been. I visited my father in prison. I've been to every single prison in Ohio from the time I was a child. I visited prisons where I saw my dad. Okay. You used to be able to just go and, something would run, they would run something over you, or you would just go through and they would detect everything over you. I was there when they used to do that when I was real little. Then it graduated to you had to strip all your clothes. So now I'm a teenager. I have to strip all my clothes. I have to open up my cheeks and let them search my body and cavity and raped and touched and I've been through it all because they got progressively offensive in their searches of people because they were searching to see if you were bringing drugs or you're bringing drug paraphernalia, which people was doing. I saw it because back in the day, you would come through the gates and you would go into the cafeteria. You would see your daddy or your uncles or whatever, your aunts. Well, I only been to men's prisons, and you would see them come out in their guard with the guard, and they would take the shackles off of them. And then they would come to the table, and you saw many, many different tables of families that would eat with their loved ones. So all through the years, if my dad wasn't on the street doing drugs or recovering from drugs or trying to get his life together, whatever he was doing, I visited him all my life in the prisons. And I'm grateful that my grandparents, an intact family, entrepreneurs who own sausage businesses, stores, it blows my mind. If you haven't seen my story, I told my story yesterday in a podcast. I was interviewed by Marquise Washington, and I put that up on my YouTube channel. I told a little bit about my story, but we would sit down with my dad and uncles or whatever, people and my grandma would bring this delicious meals. It's weird that as a child, this was like my vacation, going to see dad in prison. It's crazy because he was on drugs. Now, he has to take account for doing the drugs. What I'm saying is I've seen the damage that it does to families. And I've seen cops. I've had guards in my family who worked in prisons who reported that other guards were selling drugs to the prisoners. That's what I'm saying. They have the help of the police officers, the guards that are in the prisons, the FBI, the CIA. They have the help. And some of them are put into communities to do this. Okay. But I still don't like it. We would sit down and eat meals with my dad, and we take pictures, and I'd be so happy. It didn't even dawn on me that I'm in a prison. All my childhood, that was how I saw my dad. And then when he would come home, we would be celebrating. Everybody would be yelling, hollering. Would be a big party. That's what it's a problem in our community. We get so excited about people coming home from prison that we forget the people that graduate from college. The people coming home from prison get bigger parties, and I get it from people who make big accomplishments. But anyway, have big parties. Grandma would cook a feast. The whole neighborhood, not just my whole family, because grandma and granddaddy had 10 kids. So all the great-grandchildren, great-grandchildren, they'd be there at the feast. People in the neighborhood, people from the church, big old feast, celebrate daddy coming home. It happened every few years. If he wasn't coming home, he was in prison, and we were going to see him. And we would see people come to visit, put balloons under the table, balloons that they had stored in their cavity, their anal cavity, or their vaginas, or in their mouths. Some people would swallow drugs and then cough it up. It's crazy. This is how wild this is. So one of my humanitarian projects would be really trying to rehabilitate people that have been using drugs and or selling drugs. So they would slide them drugs under the table. They get the drugs. The guards would see it. You had cameras everywhere. If I saw it and I'm a kid, I know they saw it. But you would give those guards favors by allowing you to get the drugs. And sometimes it would be sexual favors, whether man or a woman, or other favors. It's wild what goes on in the prisons. And I was watching from the time I was a child. I've been to every single prison in every single city of Ohio. That's where I was born and raised, Cleveland, Ohio. By the time I was a teenager, I had been to all of them. But my point is, my dad's life was destroyed because he took drugs. And he tried it one time, heroin, one time when he was a teenager, and then he developed a insatiable desire for it. Now, having studied drug addictions as a master's in counseling, I learned that when you start taking drugs, your brain actually develop pockets to now require the drugs. And so if you don't have that pocket, that's how to make it in layman terms, filled, you can go crazy. And so they feel like they need it. And so they'll take it because your brain is now requiring it. And if you try to detox, because my dad was in many detox programs, the detox process feels like hell. They're throwing up, they're pooping all over the place. They get the shakes, the coke. It's torture. They hallucinate. And so they start requiring the drug or feeling like they need the drug again. And then they feel guilty because they did the drug, and then they let down their children, and then they do the drug some more, and then they try to get a job, but it's hard because you've been in prison or you wasted your life doing drugs. It is so horrendous what has happened to our families and how our families have been destroyed through the drugs. But where in the Hades did the drugs come from? How could you sell a drug or take the drugs if the drugs were not produced? Did they come from many of those nations that we have sanctioned and instigated war in, where we trying to destroy the poppy seeds and get the poppies and get the drugs from those plants and then put chemicals with them and mix the drugs and then put it in the communities to destroy families and to dishearten the men who couldn't find jobs or didn't know where to find jobs or whatever. So, oh, I ain't got nothing else to do. Let me take these drugs. I'm not excusing. I don't like it. I'm a woman all about accountability. I talk about it all the time. I don't give any excuses for myself, my family, my children, my community. No excuses. But I'm telling you the story. The drugs had to come from somewhere. How in the world do we have drug kingpins that are running enterprises from prison as if you have more power than the federal government? Miss me. Now, you should pay for your crime, but should you serve hundreds of years? I don't know. Maybe they felt like that's the debt. They didn't even say you served years because of what you've done to the community, because you somebody's mama is on drugs, somebody's daddy's on drugs, somebody's living without their dad or their parent now, but because you ordered the unalivement of another drug dealer, that's suspicious to me. But what do I know? In my humble opinion, all type of Qs are being dropped, which is why Trump pardoned 17 people, with 17 is the 17th letter is Q. Q is the highest security clearance that you can have. The Q movement dropped Q, CUES, in 2017 to people on different boards, different sites, to let them know what was going on behind the scenes with a takedown of the deep state. He pardoned 17 people. He commuted the sentence of Larry Hoover, who people are saying was some type of political prisoner. Hoover starts with an H. H as in, I've told you all before, people that understand and understand how these people operate, because they know people or have dealings with higher ups. That H represents reversal. What is this the reversal of? The reversal of admiralty law, maritime law, a Grimm existence for the deep state. Grimm is a GOP leader that was pardoned, a political prisoner as well. H, Hoover, as in Hoover Dam, which they say that dam could be breached within a few days. Watch the water is what we've been told for the last 8 years. And I say it's all because admiralty law, maritime law, the law of the waters are being reversed. And the law of the land, common law, and constitutional law will now be implemented. Tell me what you think. B. Liddy says Aries equal Mars, which is Aries, or the god of war. Okay, so Mars is a war. Mars is a god of war. We talked about Mars earlier. I said that March was a war month. March 13th, the number 13 is a number that the Illuminati, deep state, the elites love. They said it was a nefarious number. They have 13 bloodlines, by the way, which controlled the world. March 13th, they unalived Breonna Taylor. That was also when they shut down the world and said that the CV or the COVID was a it was an international threat. So they had to cut down, they had to close the whole world. Speaking of the 13 bloodline families that control the world, let's talk about it for a minute. These are the 13 bloodlines you think run the world. The Ashtar, the Bundys, the Collins, the DuPont bloodline, the Freeman, the Kennedy bloodline, the Lee, L.I. bloodline, the Onassis bloodline. Y'all know who Onassis is. The Reynolds bloodline, the Rockefeller bloodline, the Rothschild bloodline, the Russell bloodline, the Van Duyn bloodline. However, there's a bloodline family that controls those that we think run everything. These are the ones allegedly who actually run the world. The Borgia bloodline, the Breakspear bloodline, the Somaglia bloodline, the Deceni bloodline, the Conti bloodline, the Shigi bloodline. Remember, I keep saying there's something important about Chicago. The Shigi bloodline, as in Chicago, there are some records that are stored there in Chicago. If you know which records they are, please drop it in the chat. There's a bloodline family that they're trying to go after. It's a lot of murder. Chicago was a murder capital, not long ago. Chicago and Gary, Indiana, which is close to Chicago. Why? Why was the murder capital? Why is a lot of drugs and guns that were put in those communities? You actually had people come on YouTube like 7 or 8 years ago to say, we've seen police officers put guns in the community. We've seen them Give it to the young people. The YNs is what y'all call them. Other people call them. I don't like that. But the young people. Why? So you got the Borgia, Breakspear, Samaglia, Decini, Conti, the Shigi bloodline, the Colonna bloodline, Farnaces bloodline, Medici bloodline as in medicine. Are those the ones that run medicine? The medicine industry? The Gattani bloodline, the Pamphili bloodline, the Este bloodline, and the Aldobranini bloodline. So let's see what it says here. The 13 bloodlines you think to run the world are over here. We talked about them. And there's an asterisk that says this represents the public. Remember I said Trump is closing the public sector and he's putting the private back online. And people have a problem with that. But I'm like, you're the private. The public is the government. He's destroying or downsizing the government. Yes, I do know that Elon Musk, for anybody that wants to tell me, said he's separating from DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. He's removing himself from President Trump. Poppy Trump on Truth Social said the gray, he said, what's his name? Gray Musk will leave, but the white Musk is coming back. I don't know what he meant by that. You can find Poppy Trump saying that on Truth Social. So we're getting rid of the government. The government is the public sector that control the monetary system, the world, the schools, why you have public schools, transportation, why you have public transportation, public health, everything. That was all ruled, reigned, controlled, funded by the government, the deep state, the bloodline families. He's dismantling, Trump is, the white hats of the military, the Grand Army Republic, that faction, the whole government, in order to restore private living and sovereignty. That's why the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron Doctrine, because Chevron Doctrine gave all the government entities, FBI, CIA, all of 441 of them that I've listed for you all, and I put that in a post on my community section, so go and see it. The Chevron Doctrine gave them unlimited powers, told them that you can tell people to do whatever they want, whatever you want. They can create statute, legals, codes, and policies. Even HOAs, people have asked me about HOAs. HOAs are governed by government offices. I put that in a community section as well. So they have to go away. They controlled our life. Through the Chevron Doctrine, they were given unlimited powers, statutes, codes, limits, whatever they want to do. And then if you didn't abide by them, you had to pay a fine and you had to go to court. And then the courts would just defer you back to those agencies and say, well, they're experts. And that's how the Chevron Doctrine became known as the Chevron Deference. The Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron Deference, Chevron Doctrine, deemed it as unconstitutional, treasonous, unlawful, and therefore had to be dismantled. They went further and said any judge that deferred back to any government agencies as a lawful entity or as an entity that can control over you, any judge that participated, no, and whether they knew it or not, because they all know, they're all part of the same group. They're all part of the secret society. Any judge that participated also committed treason, just like those governmental agents did. And any judge that knew of a judge that allowed that to occur and didn't report it to the president, they have committed misprision of treason. They're all guilty. So we're destroying the public sector, and now private is coming online. So here it says so-called white people or white bloodline families who are forwardly displayed, put in our faces, and known to the general public to run the world, publicly operate and run the world on behalf of the so-called black or melanated bloodline families who are the frontline bloodline families. So people will say, you're always talking about race. Why are you talking about the copper-colored people found here by Christopher Columbus is the original people of America? Because it's true. Even the Webster's Dictionary says it. The 1828 Webster's Dictionary says that the original Americans, the Americans, are the copper-colored races found here by Christopher Columbus, but now applied to Europeans. Listen, I'm American. I'm a national. I'm autogenous. I sprung from the earth. The same dirt that's in the genetic code that's in the dirt, the same genetic code that's in the colon of the copper-colored races found here by Christopher Columbus. Nonetheless, I'm American. Okay, I was born and raised here. I don't care if I was born in China, But if my grandmammy and grandpappy came from America, and my great grandmammy and great grandpappy came from America, my great 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 great, and my whole bloodline came from America, just because I or any of them were born in China that doesn't make us Chinese. We're American. Why do people have a problem with that? Like if you're a Nigerian and you're in America, I don't care if you was born in China, you're not Chinese, you're Nigerian. Even Europeans that are here will tell you what their bloodline is. They'll say, I'm Irish, I'm Greek. They call themselves American because it's now applied to Europeans, but they'll tell you about their bloodline. But if I say something about me being American, it's my bloodline, we sprang from the earth, we're the original Americans here, some people get offended. But you like talking about nationality. You don't mind calling yourself American. You don't mind talking about nation, but I can't be proud to be national. The devil is not a truther. The devil is a lie. But I'm telling you as well that the so-called white folks that were pushed in front, classified as white, which is not even about color and race. It's a status. White is a status. It means that you have land, you have ownership. Black is a status that means that you have no legal standing, no standing in law. You're a slave. You're worthless. You're nothing. You don't have a voice. You don't have a standing at all. That's why I don't call myself Black. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who wrote the ISIS papers, God rest her soul, would say people classified as Black. She wouldn't call people Black people or people classified as white. She would talk about white supremacy, how that was an ideology that was put forward by people in power to cause division in our country and all over the world. So look at the bloodline families that actually run the world. So-called Black or melanated bloodline families who are not known to the general public, the bloodline families who actually run the world, according to this article, they operate secretively and run the world from the shadows, while their so-called white counterparts operate openly before the general public on behalf of the so-called Black or melanated bloodlines. I'm telling you, from both sides. So who are these Black bloodlines? They not like us. 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 They might look like us, but they're not us. Everybody by now knows that there were entities that came to America. I'm not letting off the people that's running the world or that's joining secret societies and enslaving the planet. Okay, I'm just telling you, there were entities that came here that enslaved the planet. And some of those entities are heavily melanated. Some of them are benevolent. No, the ones that enslave the planet are malevolent, bad. But you also have these entities that are now here to help the planet, and some of them that seeded people or humans on the planet who are benevolent. So you have malevolent and benevolent entities that have come to the planet for whatever reason, to control the people, to mate with the women, to try to figure out why we have God powers and why we have a soul and they don't, why we emote and some of them don't, some of them do, some of them don't. Whatever the reason they're here, they're here. We need Chief Pontiac on Saturday, and he's going to come. He's going to explain all this. When the Europeans came here, they were brought here by a group of Moors, who they call Moors. Allegedly, that's the story. These Moors were dark-complected people. Were they human? Some of them say they were. Some people say they weren't. But they were shapeshifters. They came here, did whatever they did here in America. They brought their European slaves because, allegedly, according to the stories, a lot of Europeans that escaped Europe were trying to escape the same thing we're dealing with today: raping of children, organ harvesting, human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, a whole bunch of battles, because the entities and the bad Moors, so-called bad Moors, the entities that made it with the people, because the original Europeans are dark, they're melanated. They have brown skin, brown or dark skin. Original Europeans, original people all over the planet were brown or dark or copper colored. Copper colored race is found here by Christopher Columbus, original definition of American. But everybody all over the world, and scientists will tell you that. So this isn't about racism. This is about scientific information. You can call it fact or I don't know, but it's scientific. So the people that ruled Europe some of them were entities that were not human, They were what the Bible called the Nephilim, that came from heaven and made it with the women. The sons of God made it with the daughters of men, and they created giants. Many of those giants and their human hybrids enslaved the planet. Yes, they did work with the humans also in that region. They were called, some of them were called Moors, which Moor just means they say swarthy or dark, but these were beings that moored across the waters because that's the way that the people would do business back in the day. They were Moor. So they had a lot of they brought a lot of their female slaves, a lot of their other slaves, indentured servants, or whatever you call them, here to America or Amorica. Okay. They made agreements with the government here. They established 13 colonies, like 13 bloodlines. Follow me. The 13 bloodlines established 13 colonies, but they put Caucasian faces as the lead in those 13 colonies. See, follow me? They had their own nation. This is why both Obama and Trump, fact check me, people saying Trump didn't say it, only Obama did. I have proof that Trump said the same thing. Both of them said Morocco was the first nation to recognize us as our own nation. Morocco, of which Amorica was a part. This was the head of the empire, the Moroccan Empire, the empire of the Moors, the tawny people, the swarthy people, the brown people, the copper-colored races. We had a kingdom here. This is what I've studied. You tell me in the chat what you think. Obama and Trump said Morocco was the first nation to acknowledge us as our own nation. Who is us? The 13 colonies that came from Europe. They had their own flag. The red, white, blue flag is the flag of trade and commerce. It's a trading banner. It's not the flag of the United States of America or America, whatever you want to call it. Turtle Island, North Gate, Northwest Africa. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. What else do they call it? They have other names for this. Tartaria, Lemuria, Atlantis, whatever you want to call it. That is not the flag of this landmass, okay? That is a flag, a banner of trade and commerce. So you had 13 colonies. They had their own government, their own way of doing things. They traded with each other. And they had their own nation. I think I said that already. They paid homage to the Sultan or the king of the Moroccan Empire. You have documents that say Washington paid tribute to the Sultan of Morocco. Morocco, which was headquartered here, and I believe that's those headquarter papers that are stored in Chicago. Thank you for some. Now my memory is coming back. Chicago is very important. So they paid the Sultan tribute for allowing them to be here. Now, the bloodline families that really ran everything, that were coming from Europe, that controlled Europe and ran Europe, came and usurped authority from America or Amorica, and then eventually all over the world. They utilized their slaves, the European slaves, and other Europeans, other people that came here to head or to be the face of white supremacy, to be the face of racism, the face of division, to be the face of all of these different areas that control human life. Dr. Neely Fuller wrote about it. He died recently. Interesting that he just passed away during all of this information, all this stuff that's going on. Let's see, what was his book? Dr. Neely Fuller is the mentor of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who wrote the ISIS papers. Some kind of book called The Compensatory or something or another. My sons read that book. I read Frances Cress Welsing's work. Dr. Neely Fuller wrote a book. It all relates, family. He was a melanated man. It's on Amazon. It should be more than $27, especially since he passed. It's called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Oh, this is the code book that goes to the book. Where's his real book? I know his real book got to cost more. Here's the ISIS papers that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing wrote. That was his mentee. I'm trying to see what is the book that Neely Fuller wrote. The ISIS paper key, the keys to the colors. She talks about what black and white, yellow, like the balls that you shoot in through. What's that pool? Each of those colors represents something. Basketballs represents the testicles of melanated people versus the testicles of non-melanated or less melanated people. So that's why sports is so prominent. Soccer, basketball, anything dealing with a ball is telling a story. But Neely Fuller wrote a book. Let me see. He talks about the ideology called white supremacy. Maybe that is it. Okay. I'm going to show it to you. Hold on. Something about a compensatory to racism or something like that. I never read the book. I probably should have. But I didn't really like talking about racism when I was growing up or even as an adult. The Independent Compensatory Code System Concept Textbook, a compensatory counter-racist code. The United Compensatory Code System, a textbook for thought, speech, and action for victims of racism or white supremacy. The original United Independent Code, that was a book. But he talks about the 10 areas of human activity. See if I can find that. And these 10 areas that were recently controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Oh my God, y'all know I forgot to start my live on Instagram. My Lord. I'm so sorry. I forgot to start the live on Instagram. So Neely Fuller talked about the 10 areas, or I think it was called 9 areas of human activity back then. And then somebody revisited his thesis and added one. I'll show you an image. I'm sure some of you know that. So recently you had the Chinese Communist Party to infiltrate and the Khazarian Mafia, which probably all work together to infiltrate all areas of human activity. But before, what you had was these melanated bloodline families that put Caucasians over the 9 areas. And this is what Chief Ra Hayes says blackface was about. He said, you have on in entertainment these actors and entertainers that would be Caucasian, but they would paint their faces black. He said they were telling a story and trying to say, you think we run the world, but no, there are dark entities, melanated beings that control us. And you would even see them sometimes on puppet strings, or you would look like they have puppet strings singing and dancing, shucking and jiving, really telling a story about who was running the world. Some human beings that are melanated, some human hybrids, and some entities that are not human. The same ones that were controlling the world here were doing nefarious things in Europe. And they brought their slaves here. And then you had Europeans that were trying to escape all that as well. So let me try to see if I can find the 9 areas of human activity. Please let me find this. Oh, that's not it. So I think it's like health. Y'all know the 9 areas. Can somebody put it in the chat for me? 9 areas of human activity. 9 major areas of people activity. I see a YouTube about it, but I want something written about it. 9 areas of people's activity. Here's a whole dissertation about it. Can somebody just list it for me? Something like health, entertainment, education. What else? If you all think about it, can you put in the chat for me? They allowed or put European people over those areas of activity. And then they created an ideology called white supremacy. And said that white supremacy was controlling the world. That ideology, there were fractions of white supremacy that, you have like a branch and you have things, roots that shoot out from it: white supremacy, racism, sexism, ageism, transgenderism. What else? Let's say feminism or classism. All type of things coming from the paradigm or the ideology called white supremacy, and they put Caucasian people above that in those areas, 9 areas. So like if you weren't Caucasian of European descent, you didn't get. It was hard for you to get a job in banking. Might have been hard for you to get a job in education, in science, in medicine, in entertainment, in the media, etc. Through this whole paradigm called white supremacy. And what they did was they programmed our minds to make us think that melanated people, particularly here in America, had smaller brains. They didn't have the right to have certain things, but people that had less melanin or Caucasian, Caucasoid people, or Caucasian brothers and sisters, and I say brothers and sisters because they came from melanated people, they would say their brains were larger. And they would talk about, then you had Darwinism and all these ideologies that said that one so-called race was better than the other, and therefore, if you're better, you deserve better jobs. And then you have survival of the fittest, and melanated people weren't fit. Then they put in this ideology that melanated people came from slave ships, and that we came from Africa, that we weren't a people, we were just slaves that came from Africa that was sold by our African family members, and that we came across some ships that there's no way in the world, if you have your right mind, those ships could have crossed the cold, chilly, violent Atlantic Ocean. But they taught the children that mess in school. But it's interesting because my mama she told me this recently. She said, I had never, ever heard of a slave story growing up. My mama's only in her 70s. She's 15 years older than I. She said, I ain't never heard of. They never told us about slave stories when I was growing up, not in school. My mama never told me. She said, I know exactly where my parents come from. My mama's line, she said, my great-grandfather came from Colombia. He married a woman that came from the reservation, and she's brown-skinned. And they had my grandparents. And she said, then their parents came from such and such and such. She said, I had never heard of a slave story, but they told us we came from slavery on somebody's ships. You look at those little boats, they didn't even say ships, they say boats. And the boats, like, there's no way they could have survived. And where are the slave ships? They only show you pictures of ships. Where you think if I colonized a whole country and I got them from Africa and I traversed the waters on some ships, I wouldn't have put those ships in somebody's museum, but they don't exist because it never happened. Now, somebody may have come here from a boat from somewhere, but we didn't come from slave ships. We were from here, but they lied to us. And then they put movies in Hollywood, which is another branch, entertainment controlled by these entities of the fake government. And in one of the 9 areas of human activity, education, entertainment told us we came from slave ships. And then you can come up with all these slavery movies. And Their Roots was one of the big movies or series that pushed that narrative. But people don't know that Alex Haley, who created the narrative that his family came from Africa, Kizzy and Kunta Kinte and Chicken George and all these names. And it was beat up by master. I'm not saying stuff didn't happen where people were beat by slave owners, but the big house or Big Mama's house and these plantations were owned by the people on the land. It was our land. It was our homes. You kidding me? You're not going to come from Europe and colonize a whole group of people and then take all their land. No, you might have convinced some of them to sell it, or throughout generations, people, you confiscated the land, but you couldn't do that in a matter of a couple of years, a couple of decades. Get out of here. Miss me. But Alex Haley was sued by a Caucasian man by the name of Harold Corlander, who wrote a book called The African. He said Alex Haley stole his story from the book called The African and stole the characters from the book, and he won his claim. So they lied to us. Oh, you tried to join a Silver Soul Tribe, but I've had a lot of issues in my tenure here with YouTube, LinkedIn, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Reddit, even, all of them. All I can say is I apologize. I don't know what's going on. We've had problems. I've had to get rid of about 4 or 5 computers, 4 or 5 computers because I had problems with people like somehow getting into my computer from other countries, internet not working, computer just somehow not working when I'm going live. I had to get rid of computers. I even had a son that said, Mom, my computer was just fine until you put your hands on it and start going live. Internet issues. The other day I had microphone issues. My son had to figure out what was going on. It just went out the other day and I wasn't able to go live. Money stolen. Businesses that I had put, different things I'm doing, eviction notices put on the door. I'm like, what is going on? Even though everything was paid up and paid on time, I'm like, wow. People really do come after you if you try to tell the truth. I apologize for that, but I did put the link in the description or in the chat. Rosler says, I think the origin was the I can't breathe thing came from George Floyd. Yes, I agree. Then they start casting negative affirmations and saying they can't breathe all over the country. I was asking people, why would you tell somebody I can't breathe? Why would that be your mantra? That you have no breath in your body, that you're unalive, that you're a corpse. Are you serious right now? Like, you don't follow the herd. The Black Mafia family is also on a TV show. I didn't know that. Everything is connected. Thank you. Right. Unaliving is unaliving. I agree. Oh, Bummer did a lot. A lot of them, they're all puppets. Marching and protesting, and it never didn't change a thing. In fact, people marching and protesting. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. If in my heart I do believe, we shall overcome. Why do you have to believe or be lie? And it says, if I believe, but singing, I believe, I know that singing does lift the vibrations, but you got to lift. I have children, all my children are musicians because their dad was a master musician, God rest his soul. And he taught them all how to play instruments. So I understand vibrations, frequencies, and my son would believe if it's playing on the 1 or the 2 or the this, I don't understand all that, but it's playing much of the music, even church music and hymnals, they're playing on a certain note that lowers your frequencies, that brings your mood down, that causes you to be sad. A lot of those songs did just that. And what did it bring? What was the outcome? It's wild. People who look like me, we own land here. A lot of the lynchings were not some random person classified as Black. These were business owners, so they can steal the land. Okay, they took our names, they took our land. I'm talking about the people that took over our dynasty. I'm not talking about a particular race. I'm talking about the beings, the people. They took everything, not just from us here, in different nations. They put forward people that look like us, like Martin Luther King, to sing hymnals and all this stuff and protest, but it didn't get us anything. In fact, we closed up our businesses and we started working for other people. Make that make sense. You have your own schools, your own business, your own healing centers, because you sprung from the land. Your people are literally from here. Your ancestors passed down land and wealth to you. You closed it up. You didn't, the forefathers, you ready? Didn't do it, but the children, because the children were convinced that they some Black African slaves that came from Africa that was sold into slavery that don't deserve nothing. So they sell all their wealth and go and work for other people instead of keeping up the businesses that their ancestors passed down to. Didn't get us nowhere, but in the predicament where we're in right now, where we're not educating our own children, we're complaining. Oh, they won't let my daughter wear her natural hair at the public school that's run by the Illuminati, deep state, Rothschild, and their bloodline family that control their family. So I'm going to complain and I'm going to say, I'm going to march. They won't let my daughter wear her Africanoid hair. But you had your own school system. You had your own banks. You had your own land. You had your own farms. But we gave our children and some of our ancestors, our elders, gave it up to work for somebody and to sit at somebody's counter and to sit at the front of a bus because somebody that was commissioned by the name of Rosa Parks, and we don't even know if she was a person that worked with them or not. We don't know if she was a part of the Eastern Stars and she was commissioned or paid to do that. We don't know. But she sat in the front or the back, and because she wanted to sit in the front, and now I'm going to sit on the bus, and I'm going to demand the right to ride public transportation, like I can't get my own car. And no, we weren't all slaves during that time. My great-grandparents, when you look at their documents, owned land. My great-grandfather owned land, silver, gold. How do you think I know about gold now? Because when I was introduced it by Chris Marcus, who talked about silver at a silver symposium that I attended, my memory was jarred, and I remembered the silver and other coins that my great-grandfather bequeathed to me upon his death, upon his transition. I remember the bags that were in these royal purple colored bag with lined with gold with all of these coins. My great-grandfather, when he passed, owned precious metals, houses, land. He gave us the coins. Our parents didn't. My mom didn't know what it was. She didn't realize. She just thought it was coins. She didn't know it was real silver, real gold. So when the Nation of Islam, which she was a part, said, give us all you have, she didn't have no dollars, which she was conditioned, we all were, that's real money. She gave the coins to him. Was I mad? Was I upset? No, because through the Nation of Islam, I learned to eat to live. I told my story in my podcast that I did yesterday, that when Marquise Washington interviewed me, I wasn't mad. Growing up, I was like, wow, you're conditioned to give back. They taught us to eat to live. I was a vegan growing up and or a vegetarian. I didn't eat sugar. I didn't eat candy when I lived with my mom. I was educated. I read before I started school. I wrote essays, critical reviews of articles, books, encyclopedias. I wrote essays on them and gave it to my mom before I started school, before I was like 5 or 6. Because of what she learned in the Nation of Islam, we learned about intact families, how a father has a role, a mother has a role, and how marriage is the foundation of wealth and communities. We learned how to barter. We were doing barters in the Nation of Islam. I went to private schools. My mom made my own clothes. I was taught in a community of people that had the same ideology and thinking and lifestyle as me. No, I'm not upset, because I have an abundance mentality. I have a positive mindset that instead of looking and complaining about, oh, she gave away the silver when I could have been wealthy, I said, look at the benefits. She was giving back to a community that taught us so much, that made me the amazing, beautiful, dynamic goddess empress that I am today. Thank you, Mom, for giving back and teaching me to give back. And thank you for even allowing me to touch the precious metals that my great-grandfather left. Because my memory was jarred. Follow Arcadia Economics. He has silver symposiums. He has a podcast. He gifted me an ounce of silver for attending that symposium way back some years ago. And I answered a question correctly or something like that. He is the friend and the partner of Andy Sheckman from Miles Franklin. Follow Arcadia Economics if you want to learn more about precious metals. If you desire to get precious metals, we have an affiliation with Miles Franklin. You can give them a call at 952-929-7006, or you can send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. Ask them for their inventory. Tell them how much money you want to spend. Ask them, what you should get, or tell them what you want to get. If you want a 401k, you want to roll it over into precious metals. They have that. We have that program. We have safety, safes, security, places you can store it if you want to. If you don't want to store it because you have too much money or so much, you don't want to store all that wealth in your place. Give them a call. Because of Andy Sheckman's affiliation with Chris Marcus, who gave me an ounce of silver for answering a question to one of his silver symposiums, my memory was jarred. I'm going to bring up Arcadia Economics in a minute. Of my great-grandfather giving me silver as a child. I was 6 or 7 when he passed away. He owned land. He owned 5 houses that I know about. And he had cash. He gave it to my great-grandmother, but he didn't teach her about wealth. He didn't even speak. He spoke broken English. He spoke mostly Spanish. She didn't know Spanish. She didn't know about wealth because she was taken away from my grandparents, because back in the day, one of their businesses was selling moonshine. My great-grandfather came from Colombia. Remember that. We think he might have been a political refugee. We don't really know. All we can do is follow the paper, but we know that the Gomez's were a political family in Colombia. We know he came from that because we have the documents, his birth certificate. So they were selling moonshine, which is illegal liquor, he and his wife. And so CPS came and took their children and sold them through or whatever CPS was called back then, and put them in those homes. It wasn't foster homes. It's a home where you live that was run by the nuns. My grandparents that came from my great grandparents, they were beat, they were raped, they were brutalized. And as soon as my grandmother became of age as a teenager, she had been raped by priests and nuns. She broke out and she found her brother, who was in a neighboring home. I forgot what you call those homes. And they escaped. And then they found their father. They were in Cleveland. They found their father, who had moved from Cleveland to Portsmouth, Ohio, which is like 6 hours away. They found their father. Well, they lived in Cleveland for a while. Then they found their father as adults. So they didn't really have a close relationship. But he still bequeathed the houses, the land, the money to her. She didn't know about wealth. She blew it in less than a year. And that's why I keep telling everybody, get a wealth manager, get trust. You know, we're going to have a whole team if you exchanging currencies, or when you get your Nasara wealth, because people that come into wealth overnight, if you haven't been used to having that much wealth, you can go through it. She squandered it. Didn't leave any of it to us, any of it to her children. She squandered it. Sorry, Grandma. God rest your soul. But my point is, my great-grandparents had land, wealth, money, precious metals. My father's side, my grandfather's mom was Cherokee. They had land. Both of my grandparents came from land from in Alabama. They had land. They had businesses. My grandparents owned business. They owned a sausage business, for goodness sake. They had partners. They owned a store. Like, this whole slavery narrative is a lie. We might have been indentured servants. I don't know what you call it. But the so-called slave quarters, Mama's house, that was our land. Massa didn't own that. The one who was really controlling it was not the Caucasian man that was there, but they say it was the house nigga, the house ninja. Excuse my terminology. Was the house ninja? So you had a house ninja, then you had a field ninja. I think it was the house ninja. Or the one who had the whip that would beat you for massa. Okay, we're connecting the dots that the stories that we've been told are a lie, but we're living in the age of Aquarius, the golden age, where all the lies are being exposed. And we reject these lies. We won't allow anybody to divide us because we have various skin complexions, or because we have different religious affiliations or political ideologies. This has been a war against bloodline families, which are not even human, and they're human hybrids. I apologize for getting off. No Limit was the drug group that controlled Louisville, Kentucky. Okay, I'm going to 5 more minutes, family. God knows all. Peace and blessings to us all. Black Mafia was a TV show. Everything is connected. Yes. You have to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. I see John B in the chat. Whenever BLM is involved, you know that it is a psyop. I agree. And the truth is not there. Black Lives Matter was funded by Act Blue, which also funds the Democratic Party. And they're the same thing as Antifa. We tried to warn people not to participate. Some people may have listened, but the majority, unfortunately, in my community did not listen. Free Jamal Al-Akim, a.k.a. H. Rap Brown, civil rights 60s activist. Okay. I've never heard of that person. When they hype that it's for organ harvesting, people get arrested and never heard from again. Yeah, you don't even talk about organ harvesting. They don't like that. Black Lives Never Matter. Thank you for being a part of our Civil Soul Tribe membership group, John. John says BLM never marched with legitimate causes. As a matter of fact, their mission statement said that they did not support intact families or nuclear families. They pretended like they were concerned about men classified as Black being unalive, but the group was ran by homosexual women and some of their homosexual men, but homosexual women. Like, that's weird. Not that they can't run anything, but did you really care about Black men or men classified as Black when your mission statement said you did not support nuclear families? Or were you funded by Act Blue and were in alignment with the principles of Antifa and funded by George Soros? Okay, 501c3s, those are the churches. Thank you. Many archons will now go down. Okay, thank you, Lay. Yes, the archons that were controlling the world, those entities are not human. Ultra said they said stay home, but I heard go out more. Is that what you heard? I was telling my kids stay inside because people were getting shot with rubber bullets, rubber pellets. The AM churches were giving out the jabs. Wow. All the people that started BLM after the Miles Brown stuff in St. Louis are now unalived. That rapper, that young boy rapper, isn't he from Louisiana? What is his name? Young Blood, Young something. What is a rapper? I think he's from, which is interesting. Tell me if he's from Louisiana. You just made me think of something. Rapper pardoned by Trump. And Louisiana is very, very important because you have the oldest indigenous people that come from Louisiana called the Washita people or the Washita Moors. Oldest indigenous peoples. Let me see. Rapper, young boy, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Very important. Let me show you something. Oh, we've been on for over 2 hours. I got to get out of here. I'm sorry. I said this is going to be short. President Trump pardons NBA young boy. You see that right here in a flurry of clemency actions. Okay, you see the Chicago game. Remember, I told you that bloodline is very important. Chicago also stored some documents there from the Moroccan Empire. I don't remember. I don't know which one it was. But a White House official confirmed the May 28th pardon of Louisiana-based NBA young boy 25, whose real name is Kentrell Golden. I'm gonna have to look up the gematria of the name. But Louisiana, that is not by happenstance. I'm telling you, the Moorish Empire, the original government is being restored, and the chiefs on the land are back in control. Some of these people that were arrested are the bloodlines of the chiefs. So Louisiana is where the oldest indigenous people on the planet are from. They're called the Washita or Ashita Moors. The Empress of the Ashita Moors, called Empress Verdiasi or Verdice Gostin, Gosten, Verdice Gostin L. Turner Bay, took the United States Incorporated to court and said they stole the land from her people, from the Washita people, the Moors, the people classified as Black from that whole region, Texas, Louisiana. She said it was not a Louisiana purchase, it was a Louisiana theft. Notice she didn't say, oh, white people stole my land. Oh, Caucasians stole our land. Oh, white supremacists. She said the United States Incorporated. I don't know who was it comprised of, and whomever else she brought up in that claim, stole our land. It was called the Louisiana Purchase, but it's the Louisiana theft. She won her claims. She was in the case, pursuing her case against the United States Incorporated and those bloodline families at the same time that the farmers were doing the farmers' claims against the United States Incorporated. That claim became known as Nasara. But her claim, Empress Verdice Gostin L. Turner Bay, was legitimized. They tried to throw it out in court. I thought out of court. And she was going many years fighting them. And she said, you got to do me one favor. I want to hear you say it out of your mouth that we are the original people. I want to hear you say it out of your mouth that these are the allodial titles to the land that she brought. And they said it. And then the United Nations declared African Americans to be the oldest indigenous people on the planet, and specifically the ones from the region of Louisiana. That, my darling, is somehow connected to NBA Youngboy from Louisiana being arrested and released. It's all connected. It's all connected. Chiefs on the land are back in control. The original government, the Republic for our Constitution, which the original people wrote. Now, there were people in our governments that came along that were not original peoples, and that's fine. We had treaties with many of the Europeans that came here. Some of those treaties need to be honored. Some of them may not have been honored because the other people who were supposed to honor them, they didn't do their part and honor their part. Nonetheless, we have treaties that must be honored now. Our original republic must be restored. The Constitution for our republic, the law of the land has to be returned. And eventually we have law on the land, and then you go into common law. That's the way indigenous peoples practice things. Like, we don't need a marriage certificate. We had our own way of doing things. Like, you might they say in Africa, they jump the broom. That might have been part of our culture too. Or you just form a union together. The elders may put you together through what they call those marriages where they put you together. I forgot what they call it. But your families put you together, and then you have a ceremony where everybody from your tribe come together. Thank you all for the Cash App blessings and the PayPal blessings, and for joining the chat. But you document who you married, and your elders acknowledged it. Later on, we just were recorded in the Bible. You didn't need a marriage certificate. That came much, much later. That involved the federal government, the United States Incorporated, in your business. Let's see if I can pull this up. So now the marriage was no longer about a relationship between you and your spouse, but now it's a relationship between you, your spouse or your significant other, and the government. And now that gave the government power and preeminence over your marriage. That's why you have to go through them to get a divorce. Try to find something. That's why you have to go through them. Arranged marriages, that's the word I'm looking for. I want to just post this picture so you guys can see it right quick. And they tell you who gets to visit the children when and how your assets get divided. And that's why we keep saying operate in the private. Get a trust instead of a will, because wills only express your desires. It is not etched in stone. They can be contested, and every time they're contested by whomever, all the fees that come out of it comes from your estate. You might have to sell a property to represent yourself against the person that's contesting your daddy's will. And every time they contest, you got to keep that money keeps coming out of the state. But if you put it in trust, then you're operating the private, and the government and the courts have no say. Speaking of arranged marriages, I have friends that are from India, Afghanistan, and other Middle Eastern nations, Iran, Iraq. This young lady is from a Middle Eastern country here. She used to do my eyebrows. Oops. She got married recently. That's us going to Mass. She invited me to Mass. So when I showed up, I was born and raised in the Muslim culture, and in Hebrew culture, but my mom joined the Nation of Islam. So I know I was supposed to cover my hair. I forgot, right? So, because it'd been so long. So when I met her at the Mass, she said, I brought you a gift. See, this is the way you can really get people. You can influence people. She said, I bought you a gift, and it was a beautiful gold scarf. So I covered my head and we went inside. Her parents arranged her marriage. And I asked her, how do you feel about that? Because they say that, in cultures like yours, that's slavery. That's something you shouldn't want to do, that you're oppressed. She said, why would I think it's oppressed? I trust my parents. She said, my mom and dad had my best interests at heart. They know the people that grew up in our community or people that grew up in families around us or near us. We all have the same culture. They have my best interests. My dad is a man. He knows how to vet a man. They know how to vet families. I trust my parents with all my heart. Of course, I'm going to marry him. And I'm happy about it because now I have a covering. Now I have a provider. And in our culture, when our parents do arranged marriages, it's already known that the man has some type of education and or trade or skill. He has a home. He has wealth. So men, instead of, for some of you that complain, women are gold diggers, women want this or that, know that it is actually cultural for you to have something before you get married. I was taught that. Now, my husband, I got married at 18. He was 20. We didn't have much, but we had family. His mom had something. So he and his mom got together. We got married. We lived in a house with my mother-in-law. We spent, I think, a month with my mom. We lived in a house with my mother-in-law. He and my mother-in-law, he had perfect credit. They then bought a house. For all the women say, I don't like mama's boys. His mama always this. They love their mama. I come first. The devil is a lie. She birthed him. I'm talking about Kia Pruitt. That woman birthed him. If I'm with a man, she birthed you. She gave you life. You better not put me or anybody else in front of your mama. That's me speaking. That's me. You can come for me if you want. This is my ideology. It shouldn't even have to be a competition. Oh, I come first. I'm sitting in the front. Why your mama? Why you on the phone with your mama? Why your mama got to sit in the front? Oh, you a mama's boy. Oh, you love your mama so much. Your mama. What is wrong with you women? Not you women, but some of you. I know the Bible says you forsake your mama and your father and cling to your wife. I don't support that ideology. I stand 10 toes down. I do not. Because you cleave to your wife, then she gets in your head. Or you cleave to your husband, and they separate you from the community. And that's how people end up isolated, struggling financially, sometimes abused, going astray, doing whatever they want because they have no oversight, nobody watching over them. They don't have to give an account for anybody, not on my watch. Now I get to talk about wealth, family, legacy. My mother-in-law and my husband got together. He had perfect credit. She had money and credit and bought a house, which had land, which was so valuable. We came to realize that it got taken away from us as adults through eminent domain because the city wanted it. It was that valuable. We had no idea. We bought it for $12,000. We paid it off. His name was on it and my name on it. I had a good mother-in-law. She said, we're going to put all of our names on it. But make no mistake, I got the bank loan. Y'all pay me. Then when it's paid off, you get the papers. And you know what I said? Yes, ma'am. That's what happens when you have an arranged marriage, because my mother-in-law and other people in the community said, I see y'all like each other. Y'all ain't better not have no sex because you ain't going to be no single mama. You ain't going to be pregnant. You ain't going to be ran through. This is how the community raised us. And even though my mom wasn't for it because she was like, you're just 18. I want you to go to college, finish college. But if you do get married, because I know you really want to be married, you saw your grandparents married, you saw intact families, they own wealth, they own a home. When I couldn't take care of you, you live with your family, I understand it. You must go to college and finish. I said, yes, ma'am. She allowed me to get married. The community, my mom agreed. She didn't want to. With the elders, with Aunt Henny, who I talk about so affectionately, she was the one who taught my mother about giving her life over to God and the Christian principles, because we were Muslim and then Hebrew, right? So I ended up marrying Aunt Henny's son. But anyway, Aunt Henny, who was in the church, my mother-in-law was in the church, my mom was in the church, some of the elders, Deacon Reggie Robinson, his wife, they were in the church, and other people that were in the church, they were like, y'all like each other? Y'all teenagers, y'all like each other? Both of y'all are on your way to college. Y'all been talking about y'all love each other since you were like children, and you grew up in the same community, went to the same schools, same church, whatever. You're not going to get pregnant. You're not going to impregnate her. It's better to marry than to burn. That's how they did it in the old days. We got enough land between the families because my mother-in-law owned land. She bought the house right next to her where I live. Me and my husband and I. Auntie had a house. Other aunties, they had stuff. We're going to put our money together and we're going to fund this wedding. Y'all about to get married. And we did. And we had children. And we had a good life. We had our issues. But the marriage was arranged. Trust that. And you know, the good thing about it is not only do we have beautiful children who came out to be, smart, loving children, not all, entrepreneurs in their own right, musicians, because their dad was an expert musician. They all study, all graduate from high school with above 4.0, 4.2, 4.4, 4.6, 4.8. The other four, they grew up above 4-point averages and high averages in high school. Many of them went to college. Some of them didn't. Some of them became entrepreneurs. Some of them just worked, but they take care of themselves. They're not paupers. They've never been in prison and never sold drugs. None of that. They all turned out well. Praise be to the Creator, to my ancestors, and to the elders that put us together. But even through separation and divorce, because we were silly and we had problems and we separated, got divorced, we came back together and said, you know what? We need to bring our family back together. And he was sick. And then when he eventually got sick, I took care of him until he passed away 3 years ago. That's love. That's what happens when the families get together and arrange marriages and arrange relationships. In my book, that's how we used to do things. This young lady here, in her culture, they did the same thing. She said, it was my pleasure to marry my husband. That was before she got married. Now she's married, has a son. They have wealth, property. She used to do my eyebrows. He told her when they were in the courtship, when their parents say, y'all gonna get married, he said, I don't want you working, but if you do work, you can work in an industry that deal with women. So she was in her 20s. She did my eyebrows. She used to be the person I would go to. Young lady, beautiful, sweet, pleasant, kind, feminine. And now she's thriving. Men, if you want a qualified, classy woman who will submit to you or whatever you call submitting, who won't compete with you, who will love you and get on your program, provide for her. Have a house first. Have a skill. Have some wealth. Don't come to me about white supremacy. I told my sons the same thing. I don't want to hear it. Because nobody's preventing you from having good credit or cleaning up your credit. If you got bad credit, figure it out. That's what I told mine. And they were studying Pan-Africanism along with economics and business, though. You want to do this Pan-Africanism, social justice stuff, you better get a degree in economics. You better study real estate. My oldest is real estate, my baby, economics. My daughter, you can do education and psychology, but you better also have some business acumen like your daddy. My other son got a degree in business. You want to do that Black power stuff? You better get a degree that matters. Don't come to me about no racism, white supremacy. I don't want to hear it. Couldn't say it on my watch. Have something. Then a woman would want to submit to you. And I don't mean submit where you become her overlord or try to tell her what to do or try to power. Y'all know I believe in gender roles. I believe in a woman supporting her husband. I believe in submission because men submit every day. They put their lives on the line. They're willing to die for you. They're the ones that get outside if there's a bump in the night. They're the providers. I believe in submission, honey. I believe in yielding. I believe in speaking with a pleasant, sweet tone. I believe in serving my man as natural. It's in me. My grandmother did it. It's what I saw her do all my life. I believe I cooked and cleaned for my husband. I ironed clothes. I washed clothes. I hung clothes on the line. I ironed underclothes. That's what I saw my grandma do. I ironed sheets. I didn't know anything different. It's what I saw. I cooked from scratch. I got married at 18. I raised my children. I taught them. Then my sister-in-law and I started a school. There's no excuse. I don't want to hear it. I don't buy it. You desire a good woman. You want her to be chaste. You desire for her to be wholesome. Stop running through women. Then the women will be chaste. Stop going through women and they will be virgins. Ladies, stop giving yourselves to men who can't provide for you. You lay down with the poo-poo and the Pookie and the Ray, then you get mad because he don't have anything. He didn't have anything when you laid on your back. But then you gave him the highest honor by granting him access to your womb, giving him a child, and then you treat him like a dog because you say he act like a dog. Well, what are you if you lay down with the dog? And what do you get if you lay down with the dog? You get fleas. We got to do better. If you desire a woman that's chaste, a woman that's going to respect you, have something. I was a mentor over men classified as Black when I worked for the University of Louisville. We had no statistics on graduation or retention rates of Black men classified as Black. I went to the president and I said, this is horrendous. We don't even have statistics. How am I supposed to know how men are going to do? Why would I send my kids to this school when I work for the school? It's the school I want to send my children to. I have men that are classified as Black. I have males. I want them to graduate from my alma mater. How can I do that if you don't even have statistics on whether or not they can thrive in your institution? You know what he said? Thanks be to that president. I hear you. I wasn't even a doctor. That was just Kia Pruitt. I hear you, sister. I hear you. I want a sister. I hear you, miss. I want you to go to the certain people and tell them to implement and create. Go to the Institutional Research Board. Tell them to start taking statistics. Go to the African American Students Office. Tell them what you need them to do. Go to the Dean of Undergrad Research. Tell him what you need to do. Go to the Vice President and Vice President of diversity, inclusion, whatever she was, and tell them. And I did. No excuses. Unfortunately, the guy who ran the African American Student Office was so busy trying to get in my panties, he couldn't even hear me when I said we need statistics on men classified as Black. But you run the office and you don't even have any statistics. You don't have any mentoring programs, nothing. Your penis was more important to you than helping the younger generations. This is why a lot of women are saying we got to do something. Big Mama is back because people weren't doing what they were supposed to do with what they had. He didn't listen to me. He said, "Oh, you're so cute. You're a student." I said, "No, I'm not a little student. I'm a grown woman." Okay, I entered a doctoral program. I mean, I have 2 master's degree and a bachelor's degree. I may be a young woman in my 30s, and that's not even young. I'd have been married and had children. My children are now in high school age. They'll be going to this college in a few years. Where are the mentoring programs? You got a student for African American students, and all y'all talking about is marching and we shall overcome and racism and white supremacy and reading books about racism and Pan-Africanism, but you can't even tell these people that they're really autogenous Americans. You can't even teach them how to stay in college or give them a trade or have academic enrichment programs in place to help them be retained and graduate from school. He didn't want to hear me. You know who would hear me? The dean that was over undergraduate students. He was a Caucasian man that was actually a gay man. He said, "I hear you." So I'm over the undergraduate students. Are you sure the institutional research of the University of Louisville doesn't have any statistics? I said, "None. I've looked." He said, "Well, I can only sign off on a letter and then I have to send you up to my upline." I said, "Well, I have the sanction of the president and I'm only going through this protocol because he told me to, but eventually I'm going to succeed." He said, "Okay, well, you got my stamp of approval." Then I went to the vice provost for diversity, inclusion, equity, whatever, who was a melanated sister classified as Black. But, in order to get those jobs, you have to pledge. You have to be a part of some secret society. You know what she told me? She said, "You're so cute." Same thing the brother told me in the African American Student Office. "You're so cute. Oh, look at you. You're concerned about the students. Why don't you mind your business and graduate from your program and don't worry about the business that I'm taking care of?" She said, that's under my watch. Then, so that was the University of Louisville. That was the undergrad campus. I worked for the medical school, advising medical students, teaching verbal reasoning components of the MCAT, the medical college admissions test, and the dental admissions test. I was teaching there, running those programs, running the summer medical and dental education program, advising medical students, doing seminars and programs for medical students, coordinating tutoring programs for medical students, recruiting medical students, and retaining and helping medical students graduate, helping them with resumes and helping them get through all years of college and get to their residency and all that I helped with, recruited them. I sat on the admissions committee in the medical school, but she had the gall to tell me I need to mind my little girl business. The vice provost for diversity, equity, inclusion, whatever. She went when I went to ask her to help me to implement data for how to retain men classified as Black and create programs to give them mentoring and academic enrichment programs and tutoring programs to help them participate in community activities. She told me to mind my little girl undergrad business. I said, I got 2 master's degrees. I'm in a PhD program. I'm a grown woman. She then left the undergrad campus, went over to the medical school where I work, arranged a meeting between my supervisor and me. I don't know what's going on. I could show up to the meeting and I'm looking at Mary and Mary's looking at me and I'm like, ma'am, this is Mary, is my supervisor. Like, you called? She said, yeah, Maureen says that you're trying to steal her job. I said, what? Why would I want a job with diversity, equity, and inclusion or whatever? I'm just trying to do some research for my dissertation. And trying to create mentoring programs because I have a passion for helping men classified as Black so that they can provide for their families. I want them to graduate from college because I have males that look like them. And my daddy, if he had a way and if he followed the what my grandparents put in place for him, or at least work for the businesses, he would have something. And I'm sick and tired of hearing about racism, white supremacy, but yet here I am trying to get these things in place, and I have the people that look like me fighting against me. Boulay, Eastern Star, now I know. Secret society members who were told and taught to keep people oppressed. So the lady goes on, the vice president for diversity, equity, inclusion, and says that I'm trying to steal her job and that my supervisor should do something. My supervisor said, I can't do anything. Kia is a grown woman. She works in a medical school. I don't have anything to do with what goes on over there on the undergrad campus. She's like, Mary, you're supposed to be on the same page as me. Girl, come on now, blah, blah. And Mary just looked at me and I looked at her and then I said, are we done? Now, normally I was a passive person when it came to like talking to bosses and elders, but I said, are we done? She said, yes. I said, thank you. And I walked away and they kept on kiki and kakaing. I went back to the president and I reported to him, this is what each person did when I tried to implement programs. He said, now you have a letter with my seal, my signature, and my stamp. And you go to each one of them and you tell them that you're coming in the name of the president. He was a Caucasian man who had a degree in economics. You're coming in the name of the president. You said you worked in programs like this at Marshall University before. I said, yeah, I was a graduate assistant. I worked retaining students who were freshmen and sophomore who were struggling. I've put together mentoring programs. I've put together academic enrichment programs. I know what it looks like. And whatever I don't know, I'll find out. I need for men to succeed so they can provide for their families, because I'm sick and tired of hearing that, you know, white supremacy, racism, and drugs and this and that is keeping me back. Well, if I put something in place, I can say, I have something in place. We have something in place that can help you graduate. He said, you have my blessing. I went to the man who was over the African American student office. I said, I want you to change it to a cultural center. We're going to start teaching culture. We're going to start having seminars and classes. We're going to put some mentoring programs in place here. Later on, they came up with African American Brotherhood, Student African American Brotherhood, AAA, African American Male Initiative, Collegiate 100, and they put those and house them there. They work with Black Greek sororities and fraternities, and they can meet there in that office. I said, change it from the African American student office and make it a culture center. We're going to teach culture. It's going to be a culture. You can teach them the culture of who they are. If you want to teach Pan-Africanism, I don't care. Teach them the culture of academics. Teach them the culture of taking care of their families. Teach them the culture of being a man. Teach the women the culture of being a woman. Teach them the culture of family. Teach them the culture of community. He said, why should I do that? I said, because here's the president's letter. There you go. Then I went to the undergrad dean's office and he said, you have my blessing all along. I said, all right, now we need for all the undergrad offices to work with the Cultural Center, because we're changing the name from African American Student Office to Cultural Center. And we're going to have academic enrichment programs. We're going to have mentorship programs. He said, I think that's phenomenal. He was a gay man. And eventually they actually put in a gay student's office inside of the cultural center. Okay, no harm, no foul. We I had to negotiate. We negotiating, whatever. We negotiate. We coming to the table. You get some, I get some. Overall, everybody's going to benefit. Okay. So then I go to the Mordine's office. I almost said her whole name. And I treated her with kindness. And I told her what the president said. She signed off on the papers. And then I went to the institutional research department at the University of Louisville. I said, we're going to start collecting data on all of you. Have the recruitment documents and papers. You make money because you know who all you recruit, because you get money and funding for recruiting them. But if you want to make more money and get more government funds, then retain and graduate people who look like me. But specifically the males, that was my passion. That's what my dissertation was, how to graduate and retain and graduate Black males from college. They did it. They didn't tell me when they were going to do it. They didn't tell me nothing, anything. I went back to the president. I reported, it is finished. Well, at least I gave them, what I told them what to do. Do you know, one day, like several months later, I looked up, the African-American student office was changed to the cultural center. Mentoring programs were implemented, all that. Nobody wrote me a letter. Nobody said thank you. We didn't do a celebration. They didn't acknowledge me, nothing. I looked on the website. I was like, what? Everything that I said was implemented. But the job was done. The job was done. Kudos to the University of Louisville and all the staff and all the student affairs administrators, to all the professionals, and to that president. He went on to do greater things, who allowed me to operate in my calling, my mission, and my vision for the men classified as Black. We went on. I found out who was over some of those programs, and Joseph Goodman, good man. Some of y'all know him. That's from Louisville, Kentucky. He helped me finish my dissertation. He gave me the data that I needed, and we went on to mentor men classified as Black together. They called him Uncle Joe and me Mama Kia. That's how I got the name, other than the fact that I was fostering kids and doing all types of things. People call me Mama Kia in the community, but they really, moved my name Mama Kia to a whole nother level, because now these young men were like, we got our parents at home. Some of them didn't, but we have Mama Kia and Uncle Joe, taking them out shopping, taking them to travel, different cities, different states, taking them to see different museums, taking them to do volunteerism programs, doing academic programs with them, inspiring them, helping many hundreds of them graduate from college, taking them to different symposiums and different things. Because if you desire for something to be accomplished, you need to get off your behind and do it. Instead of complaining about what is not in place, get off your behind and put it in place. Instead of saying what's against you, turn that around and change it to be for you, because no weapon that is formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you shall be condemned. Thus saith the God of the Bible and Dr. Kia Pruitt. And because ye are gods, did not I tell you ye are gods? Speak to me, Jesus of the Bible. Speak to me, Psalms 82:7. Ye are gods and sons of the Most High God. Why are we groveling, complaining? When's it going to happen? They won't do this. Trump won't do this. They. Who is they? Who is the they that we're waiting on? You be the change that you want to be in the world. You are the God. You are the Savior for whom you've been seeking. Get off your behind and do something. When you have an abundance mentality, when you have a sovereign mentality, when you have a positive mentality, you know the moment you make up your mind, the multiverse or the universe conspires to assist you. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, which is why we have 1,100 people in the chat right now. I said that to say I didn't allow excuses. When my children were in high school, not high school, when they were in elementary, middle, and high school, whether it was public school, and then my sister-in-law said, kid, we're going to start a school, and that's what we did. But when they were in public school, I knew the names of the janitors, and I was working. Sometimes I wasn't. But when my husband and I separated, I had to get a job, baby. It probably would have behooved me to stay put and try to work through them issues. Now that I'm older and wiser, some things I could have overlooked or forgiven, or we could have worked through. You know what I'm saying? Everything may not be able to be worked through, but when you have hindsight, when you get older, when you're an elder, things don't matter like they used to. But now I had to get out and work. Okay. I had to figure out what it was like to be an independent woman. I ain't like it. Thankfully, my mother-in-law was still in my life. And of course I had my family, and I had all my in-laws, my Aunt Henny, everybody, even though we were separated. And even he and I started working together. We worked for the same school that my sister-in-law and I started. And the whole family started together. But she and her husband, David, actually were the initiators, the brain, David and Darlene Cartwright. And they allowed us to be a part of it. We started a school. But when they were in public school, I knew the name to every janitor, every principal, vice principal, every teacher, every counselor, every social worker, every nurse. I knew the names, and I had the email and phone numbers. I attended meetings. And I was working, and some of that time I was even in college, but there's no excuse for Kia Pruitt for anything. My mother didn't allow me to say can't for anything. She didn't allow for excuses. We didn't learn. I never even heard of white supremacy, racism, and people holding you back until I was darn near an adult, because it didn't exist in my house. My mother raised 5 kids in a project. She had me at 15. She did not allow that type of rhetoric in her home. You were not even allowed to say the word can't. You get slapped in the mouth. So I didn't grow up with that constitution to complain. I went to the meetings. I told my children, I said, I'm going to create activities for you all. I worked with the principals of schools. I created extracurricular activities. When I worked for the medical school, I would bring students, not just mine, but students. They had something called Men of Quality, because the principal was a part of the Qs. And they do a lot of benevolent things. So he had a Men of Quality where he did enrichment programs for the males. So I would bring them and other children to the medical school. They participated in simulation where they could work on the mannequins. I even took them, I probably wasn't supposed to back in the day, but it wasn't as tight, to see the labs where you had brains and cadavers, all of that. I had them shadowing doctors, my children and other children. I had them participate in HealthWise, which was them and other children in elementary schools, which was a program for elementary children that were interested in medicine, where they can meet doctors, talk to doctors, work on mannequins, do research, all that. And I worked with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law when they were elementary school to do, my brother-in-law was an engineer, to do engineering programs. My children were studying trigonometry, geometry, calculus, all those higher level maths in elementary school. No excuse. That's how I felt. We had them in arts. My husband was a musician and an artist. All my children are artists. They know how to paint. Well, I'm gonna bring my daughter on here and interview her. She's a phenomenal artist. She can charge thousands, and she doesn't. I don't know why. But anyway, what I'm saying is no excuse. You don't like the way public schools are treating you, create one. Do some homeschooling. Look for the people in your community who would teach, that you can pay or barter with, that would teach the children. You think the people are racist? Well, take them out of the schools. When I saw my son, who was making straight A's in all the tests, he was making above 100% on his test. But one day he came home with a C. Not on his report card, but on the card that the progress report. I was like, C? You've gotten above 100 on, because you got 100 on the test plus the extra stuff you always. How did you get a C? He said, Mom, we don't have books. I'm like, what? I said, oh, really? I went to the school. I said, why don't y'all have books? The teacher says, I don't know. I went to the principal. Why don't y'all have books? I don't know. I said, you're going to have books by the time I get done. I wrote the, the supervisor of schools, superintendent of schools. And I said, we're going to come up with books, not just for my son, but every single child in that classroom, or else I will be going to the news. And these are all the news places I will be going to. And I will be letting everybody in the community know that you don't have books. And I might even sue the schools for improperly educating children. I didn't know that the funding was coming from the government back then. I said, and if for some reason the schools don't have money, Why don't we just put together a program where all the parents come and put money together so that we can give schools to the books to the children? Because there's no way my son should be coming home with a C when he gets 100% and above on his exams, because he cannot do the homework without a book. By the time we got finished with those session of meetings, they miraculously came up with books. I don't know where they were, and all the students had a book. Get up off your tushy and do something. I went to the schools before we started our private school. I was there anytime I can get there. And I had children that were at different schools because they're different ages. Some days I would do lunch with them at this school. Some days I do lunch there. Some days I do lunch there. Now also volunteer. What do you want me to do, teacher? You want me to just watch the class for you? So two things happened. My children were accustomed to seeing me at school every day. So they started to kind of look forward to my mom bringing lunch to eat with them. But another thing happened. They couldn't goof off because mama was going to be there. Three things happened, and the teachers knew that they could not do anything that I wouldn't approve of. They can only do their job because I would be there. Now, I get it that through COVID, they've been a little harder. But you can get email addresses like I did. You can do phone calls. You can go to the meetings. You can start a school. You can create programs. You can align with people who know programs. Help the children. Take care of the children. Elders, we got to do our job and stop partying, kiki and kaka, and being friends with these children and do what we're supposed to do as elders and keep them in line. Children, you need to learn to stay in your place, stay out of your mama and daddy's business. It ain't none of your business why they separate or why they fight or why they argue or why they did this or why who cheated on that. Stay in a child's place. I don't care if you're 55. And parents stop telling the children about what went down in the marriage. That can hurt them. Elders, you're not friends with the children. You're over them. This is the way we were taught. This is our culture. Many cultures do this. Let's restore community and get things in order. Come up with your own bank. You should have a family bank. You should be storing gold backs are only $3. Those are gold RM notes. 24 karat gold pressed onto a note. 0.999% pure gold is 1/100th of a troy ounce of gold, and some of them are 1/1000th of a troy ounce of gold. Store some. Some of them are as little as $3.50. Why can't you afford $3.50 to have gold? Why can't we sacrifice cigarettes, drinks, marijuana? Weed is running rampant through many communities, especially community classified as Black, because it's cool. Black and miles, drinking, partying, carousing, going to the clubs. I'm not saying don't have fun and dance or whatever from time to time, but that should not take over your life. You can't sacrifice a little of that to get some gold RM notes or some constitutional silver that they erroneously call junk silver. Now that we're moving to the gold and silver standard, you can't afford to get an ounce of silver. Create your own banks. Put your money together. Buy a little land or a lot of land. Grow some food. I'm talking to myself too. We're still in the credit system. We're getting off of, but learn how to clean up your credit. Figure it out. Study it. Research it. Go online. It's not even that hard now. Look for a 609 letter to dispute bankruptcies, judgments, and collections on your credit report. Write a letter that says, unless you can provide me, according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, Section 609, you have to provide me with the original contract with my wet ink signature in order to verify these debts. If you cannot verify these debts, then according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, Section 609, you must remove them from my credit report. You have 30 days to do so. I'm not going to say it again. Don't ask me for a letter. Please don't ask me to say it again. Please don't ask me to rewind. No, it's your job. You want this information. I already told you what to do. If you want it, get it. Stop expecting people to hold your hand, placate you, wipe your little boogers from your nose, wipe your eyes, you cry with you and complain and handhold you through every single process. You have people that are literally giving you information for free, and some of us will still complain about freaking white supremacy. Oh, you're doing some things for free and some things for money. You're a capitalist. You're acting like white people. I rebuke you in the name of my ancestors. Put on your big girl panties, pull your panties up, zip up your zipper, pull up your pants, be an adult, and act like an adult. You've been placated too long. You've been coddled, handheld, called a slave, said it's the government's fault, whether you classify as black or white, saying it's the nefarious being fault for enslaving us. That's why I can't do anything. It's white supremacy, it's racism, it's the people in secret societies. That's why I don't have anything. But you don't talk about how you partied your life away, how you wasted your money, you wasted your childhood, you wasted your youth, you wasted your adolescence, you wasted your energy because you hate people, because you're unforgiving, because you don't want to extend grace. You don't talk about the money that you waste, the time, the energy. You want somebody to feel sorry for you? You want people that live in the private to march for social justice when some of us have a right mind? With the computer that's out now, there's no excuse for not being able to research. With all the information, people like me and all these podcasters and all these journalists and independent journalists and all these economists, all this information, financial information they're giving, there's no excuse for most of us. That's how I taught my children. None. The higher the expectation, the higher the achievement. But you have no expectation, a low expectation, then they won't achieve, or they achieve very low. Elders, let's get about our job. Get these children in place. Stop being their friends. Tell them there's no excuse. We have high expectations and they're going to get it done. That's how you achieve. And let's bring our families back together and create intact families, because intact families are what communities are built upon, okay? We always say we want a whole healthy society. Well, whole healthy societies are comprised of whole healthy communities. Whole healthy communities are comprised of whole healthy families. Whole healthy families start with you and me. Eat well, eat to live, fresh, living, clean foods. Or grow your food, clean water. So much information about how to clean your water out there. There's no excuse. Yes, the government has done things. They polluted the air in Florida. Thankfully, now chemtrails is illegal, unlawful, unconstitutional. It will move. You can pass those along by working at the local level. I said the 10th Amendment says that local communities have more power than federal governments. Eat clean foods, drink clean water, walk, be healthy. Walking, you can lose weight. There's no excuse for the obesity that's running rampant in the community classified as Black. That's why some of these women aren't getting chosen, because you don't control what's in your mouth. If you can't control what you put in your mouth and your body is out of control and you're obese because you can't control your portions, how can you control a man's wealth? How can you control the children? You can't even control the portions you put in your mouth. Come on, do better. Don't fat shame me. We got to do better. Some of y'all are gifted in health, gifted in herbs. We have the Meta Center Chicago. You can, I'm going to put a plug, and you can use code DRKIA 2024, Dr. Kia 2024. Go to the Meta Center Chicago, get you some diodes to clean your stuff up. Get you some copper to put on your bracelets and jewelry so to deal with the ailments in your body. Get you some seeds that are organic. Get you some services that they have here where they detect the ailments in your body, then come up with a regimen to take seeds and teas and herbs to cure yourself or heal yourself, whatever they don't want me to say, because I can get fly. Cure. Some of y'all have cures. You know how to heal. I'm going to say it. I'm not afraid. Use what you have. Stop making excuses. Stop complaining. I don't care if you're Dr. Kia Pruitt. I don't care who you are. You can be freaking Jesus Christ. Stop complaining. You can be Lucifer himself. Stop complaining. Instead, have an abundance mentality. Have a positive mentality. Get up off of our behinds and let's do something. Let's work together as a community. I don't care what your skin complexion look like, your religious or government affiliation or whatever. Let's work together, because our children, they're not even getting married. They're not even, some of them aren't even having children. That might not matter to you. It matters to me. I want to leave. I will leave something for my bloodline, for all of humanity and my family. I desire for them to have children. They're not even having children anymore. They're so focused on social media. That's taken over their minds. They're not even going outside to to play, to get to know each other, whatever. Things are changing, but we are the change that we desire to see. So we have to, we need to, we must take control of our own lives because we are sovereign. We have reign, rule, control over our own lives. It's time for us to start acting like it. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I trust I've said something, anything to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Go out and make this a great day. Create a collage. Decide what you desire for your life to look like. Create a collage or a vision board. Write a mission statement, a vision statement for yourself, for your life, for your family. Accomplish it. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. And for those of you who are looking for gold or silver, you can go to your local coin shop and ask them for constitutional silver or gold, or you can contact our affiliate, Miles Franklin, at 952-929-7006, or send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. Also remember to support Arcadia Economics because that's where I learned about silver. Actually, my great-grandfather taught me about silver, but I got my first free silver coin from Chris Marcus, and then he and I and his girlfriend became, relatively close affiliates, and they introduced me to Andy Scheckman, of the CEO of Miles Franklin. So follow Arcadia Economics. He does a great job of teaching about silver and precious metals. He runs a silver symposium. This is what his website, he has arcadiaeconomics.com, but this is his YouTube channel. Please follow him. Please get silver and gold from Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company, who has been in business for decades. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They have never had a complaint for anything. They have excellent customer service. David Scheckman, Andy's father, is the one who wrote the newsletter that started imploring people to buy silver like 3 years ago. When I was telling that information, YouTube got upset because they don't want you to know about silver and gold. They didn't want everybody to know that we were moving to the gold standard. So they took down my whole channel. But I still stand affirmatively and say silver and gold is money, which is why the Shanghai Corporation and BRICS Coalition have coalesced against the United States Incorporated and stopped trading with the dollar and using gold and their local currencies for trade. 45 states in America have removed or repealed the state sales tax from the sales of precious metals, which aligns us with the Constitution for the Republic that says silver and gold is money, and only silver and gold can be used to pay off debts. We only have 5 more states to do that. They are slated to do that this year. You can read an article by the Sound Money Defense League that says 45 states repealed the state sales taxes from the sales of precious metals. I've given you all that article many times. So this is all I have to say for the day. And for those of you who sent me a Cash App blessing, thank you so much. You can send it to $Mama Kia 13. That's $MAMAKIA 13. If you desire to know more about the global world economics, what else? The revaluation of currencies. What else? Oh, is it the GCR, Global Currency Reset? You can join the Silver Soul Tribe. It's a group of people who are like-minded, who are into currencies, currency investments, who study different countries, who look at the gross domestic product or the GDP and the economies, the resources of nations, so they can decide which that they want to or desire to invest in. You will find that link here. I'm going to drop it in the description section right here. You're welcome. Faith says, thank you for that amazing message. Thank you so much. But here is that. Did it come up for you? It's right here. If you desire to join the Silver Soul Tribe, you will also see the join button on all of my videos right next to the subscribe button, or on the main channel on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show, also known as Dr. Kia Pruitt Official. You will see a join button. Click on that button, follow the prompts, and then you'll be in the Silver Soul Tribe membership group, where we share information about currencies that are revaluing. As a matter of fact, we talked this morning about two countries that you need to pay attention to. I did a video on that about a day or two ago to talk about those two countries that you need to pay attention to. But today I went into more detail. And the reason why we do that is because we desire for you to know what's going on in the world, because the whole world, my darlings, is interconnected. And all of these trade deals, trade agreements are leading to a revaluation of currencies. So if you've heard of the RV, a global currency reset, basically that means that the old system, the United States Incorporated, the Federal Reserve Central Banking System, is all collapsing. The United States dollar is losing its dominance, and we're now moving to the gold standard all over the world. It also means that we are going to be using silver and gold as money. You have three options: silver and gold as money, or the new currency that people are saying is going to be reigned by gold currency, backed by silver and gold, or digital assets. In the Silver Soul Tribe community, we'll be talking about digital assets in the days to come. We talk about gold backs. I tell you which merchants recognize silver and gold right now, where you can buy things using silver and gold backs. Oh, it's a great group. And I talk about a lot of other things in that group. Here was the latest live that we did this morning. What is it called? You'll find it on my channel. It's called "This Country Just Signed a Major Deal. Their Currency Will Soar." We did that podcast this morning. The Soul Tribe said they appreciate that podcast and all the podcasts that we do in the Silver Soul Tribe group, because people that are in that group are like-minded. We all are into humanitarian projects, philanthropic projects, leaving a legacy for our family members, helping the community, helping the world, as a matter of fact. So if you desire to be a part of a group with like-minded people that are into investments or into gold and silver, or trying to figure out a community, how to establish a community, and how to build our nation, because we're all in America, or some of you are from other nations, then please join that group. And that's about it. I think I've said enough. I love you all so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your kind words. I appreciate the monetary blessings and the gifts that you've given me. And I see we got some more people here that sent the message. So let me see. Let me end with this. Thank you to all of you who sent a cash app to $ Mama Kia 13. That's $ MAMAKIA. Somebody just sent something. Michelle. Oh, Rachel Rose, thank you for your gift. Brenda Harris, thank you for your gift. Robin Morgan, thank you so much. He says, thanks, Sister Soldier, for the information. Brenda said, please reduce or cash app. What'd you say, sis? Please reduce my cash app sign. It overlaps the text message. Thank you. Okay. Sister Leah says, excellent info about holding. Thanks for the excellent information without holding back. So that's it, family. I'll see you later. Take care and make this a great day. Bye-bye. Peace. I love you all too.